Time now is 5:30. We call the Leesburg City Commission meeting to order. If you would all stand for the prayer, followed by pledge of allegiance to the flag. Can we bow our heads, please? Most heavenly and gracious Father, we come before you tonight to say thank you for being able to live in such a wonderful city such as Leesburg, Florida. We thank you for the commission. We thank you for our city manager and our staff that make Leesburg run so efficiently and effectively. We honor you for our citizens that are here tonight and those that reside in Leesburg. We ask God now that you grant us decisions that will be beneficial for all those who are affected by what we do here tonight. We ask for your wisdom and your guidance that we can do what's best for everyone. We ask now, God, you protect our troops around the world who fight for our freedoms, our first responders that protect us on a daily basis here in Leesburg. We honor you now. We ask holy blessing. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have no proclamations or presentations tonight. And for us, our consent agenda, where routine items are placed on the consent agenda to expedite the meeting. If the commissioner or staff wish to discuss any item, the procedure is as follows. Pull the items from the consent agenda, vote on remaining items with one roll call vote, and discuss each pulled item and vote by roll call. Are there any items tonight the commission would like to pull?
Not for me, thank you.
4B3 and 4C1.
4C2, 4C6.
Anything, Mr. Peterson?
I think they covered it 5, D and E.
Don't have to pull those.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. And the minutes, I had a correction on the minutes from last meeting. It was minor.
Okay. All right, now a motion to approve the remaining items?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and properly second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Roebuck,
Yes.
Commissioner Hurley,
Yes.
Commissioner Dennison,
Yes.
Mayor Christian.
Yes. 481 is our regular meeting minutes held May 28, 2019.
Yeah, it was the discussion on the contract for $40,000. There was a reference where I was quoted and said 17,000 instead of 40.
Okay.
I'm trying to find it here real quick.
So I should say 40,000 instead of 17?
Yeah,
Okay.
we referenced 40,000 numerous times. There's a,
Okay.
there's a comment from me, and it just as a typo, it says 17.
Okay. Motion to correct the minutes to reflect 40,000 instead of 17,000?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Roebuck,
Yes.
Commissioner Hurley,
Yes.
Commissioner Dennison,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Mayor Christian.
Yes. Item 4B3 is a resolution. Would someone like to introduce it?
I'll introduce and ask that it not be read and move for approval.
Have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
This is the one you pulled.
Which one?
I'm trying to find it. My screen went blank, so
Take your time.
It's 4C1?
4B3.
4B3. This is the dredge project.
the
Oh.
what? The dredge.
Oh,
The
maybe
dredge
this is the one I
project.
pulled. Did you pull this one? Okay, I did, so go ahead.
And if somebody here knows how to fix my computer, that'd be great. So for me, I just wanted a little clarity or more in depth if somebody could explain. I mean, obviously $1.2 million to move 5 feet of dirt. Well, 60 million tons of cubic dirt, I get it, but I just kind of like a little clarity on it because it's a lot of money, and I know there's obviously a reason why, but I just like a little clarity on it.
Sure. So scope of work, the reason we're at the numbers we're at is because we couldn't afford to do the bigger number, basically. It started out at 1.7. We negotiated down. The first part of the project is to remove about 6 acres of vegetation here. And this is Lake Lorraine, by the way. Up here is Griffin Road and Beverly Shores School right here. So the first part of the job is to remove that vegetation, bring it off through here, dry it a little bit, and then dispose of it. Second part of the project is to then come in and dredge the depth here of the pond to 5 feet in deep, so that and that's where you get the 30,000 cubic yards of muck. That all will come out here. They'll be put in drying tubes on this piece of property, and then once it's dried, will be hauled off.
I mean, that's process, and it's kind of simple. I know it's a lot of money, but essentially, why would we do this project? The project is a bit of a major collection area for that north central portion of the community. So it really comes into, it's a stormwater project. By dredging and cleaning our ponds, we get better retention, cleaner stormwater, and then that has an impact on the stormwater quality that's going into our bigger lakes and the chain of lakes. Also, we had a fish kill earlier in that area, which shows that that pond is filled with sediment on oxygen issues where we had some fish kill issues. So it's an environmental issue, it's a keep water clean issue, and the best way to do that is dredge ponds and make retention areas. And it's paid for with stormwater impact fees, which is what are not stormwater impact fees, the stormwater use fee, which the residents pay and businesses pay as well. So it's simple and it's expensive. Keep the lakes clean by keeping them dredged and keeping sediment out and allowing water to go in and filter.
What amount of time does this give us
It's going to take it.
before we have to do it again?
Yeah,
Years.
it will be years.
10-year project?
I would say you probably
we
have a
talked about
20,
this a little
30-year
bit
project
internally.
again.
A lot depends on how well we maintain it, but we think 10, 15 years is not unreasonable.
Okay.
Can you? I don't even know whether legally you can do it here, but I know a lot of like ski lakes they die to keep the growth from happening, right? To stop blocks the light penetration. Can we do that? Like, I mean, this isn't really a real waterway, it's just a pond.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't looked into putting dye into the water. I do know that one of the benefits you get by dredging is that you increase the depth of the water, which makes it harder then for the plants to grow on the bottom. That's one of the main reasons we're doing the removing that muck and silt. So I haven't looked into whether or not we could use that as part of the long-term like aquatic plant management program.
Right.
We can do that.
Okay. And then you had mentioned once, but that we have like a list of these. You had some others.
There's 3 or 4 others, and Brandy, if you would, I brought some pictures. The first thing I'd point out, this is Google Earth imagery, and even this imagery is 2 years old, so the growth is worse now than it looks even on these charts. I think if you just go, the first one I think on top was not the graph. No. That's the one we've got right now, and then I think the next one is Lake Hollywood. Yep. So here's Lake. There you go, that way. You can see the growth coming in here, up here. We think we can work in that area. Lake Lorraine, the one we have scheduled first, is the worst of the ones. The next one is Store Island is kind of a this is labeled Dykes Lake, but it's pretty well dried up. The issue is all of this vegetation in here that we think we could work on. There's a little bit here, and this stormwater from here comes through here, actually through that channel right there. But cleaning, there's a lot more water here than it appears in this chart because it's all overgrown. The next one. This is Robin Hood. This is part land and part vegetation in both these areas. I think we can clean that up some. There's also some work we have to do here on the inlets that when we get to that. And then the final one is Lake Lucerne. This is kind of the early stages, but you can see we're starting to get growth here, 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 and along the shore here.
Can we come up with some sort of maintenance plan so we eventually don't? Or we extend the amount?
Well, we have some aquatic spraying that we do.
Okay.
We eventually though you still have to come back in and do the kind of work that we're talking about.
Right.
with Lake Lorraine.
Okay.
This is the first major project we've undertaken like this. I see us maybe being able to do one of these every 2 or 3 years.
What's the one behind Stock Subdivision that we did a few years ago?
That's Robin Hood. That was.
And we did that about, what, 3, 4 years ago?
We've done some small work in there. I don't recall since I've been here that we've done the work at the scale that we're talking about for Lake Lorraine, where we actually get in and remove sediment and muck off the bottom and do a complete removal.
How much do you have in the fund after this $1 million?
Yeah, so there's about $3.5 million total in the stormwater utility fund. Just to kind of go up from the bottom, this is the required reserve. This is what's already obligated. This project is in this area here. Also, the $500,000 that we told Lake County that we would provide them for the muck farm purchase is in the obligated amount. The money that we've pledged, or actually already given to FDOT for that pond, is already out of here. And what's left in the cash, available cash above this project is about $865,000. That doesn't include another $212,000 that will be coming into the fund from Lake County Water Authority as their share for the project that we're doing with FDOT. So after this project is done, we still have about $1 million cash in the fund above what's required for our reserve. And we generate, if you compare revenues versus just the operating expenses, we generate about $600,000 each year that can go either to cash or to capital projects.
Is digging up 5 feet of muck, is that enough in your opinion? Or are we being constrained by a budget, or is that?
Well, I don't think we would go deeper than that if we when I looked at the money that was available, what I used was money that is budgeted in this year.
And I guess the basis of my question was, if you went, I'll just use the example, 3 feet deeper, would that give the lake a better chance of, recovering, and maybe it's 30 years before we have to dig it out again?
There's some permit issues that you get involved in if as long as we're removing what are deposits that were not part of the initial permitted,
Okay.
then we're not dredging.
Okay.
If we get into dredging, then we get into a whole different kind
And I
of
wasn't trying
permitting
to do
issue.
that. Okay. Okay, you answered my question. Thank you.
Well, we got it down by 500,000. What did we take away from the project?
We eliminated 23,000 cubic yards.
Okay.
We focused on this area. We probably won't get into this area, and we're not doing anything over there.
And I guess so how long are we going to be then before we're back to needing to do the section we're not doing now? Because then we're going to have to pay to mobilize again. I mean, my thinking is if we're going to do a project like this and we have the cash, which we do, that we should do the whole project. Because I don't know what the mobilization number is. You
I
probably
think we
know.
can go back and award the original
Is
contract.
it? Okay.
That's my question.
Well, they can approve not to exceed amount.
And then that's true.
Without having to rebid it, that's what you're saying?
No, yes, without rebid.
Yeah, 210,000 is mobilization. So if we come back later, then we're going to spend that money all over again.
I mean, it's a unit price contract, so you guys are free to approve a not to exceed amount, and we can make a change to the contract when the time comes. Once we get to the contract amount right now.
Yeah, I'm not an expert in this field. I just always viewed it as a shallow lake. I guess where I was going was go a little deeper. I wasn't trying to mess with Mother Nature, but dig out more muck, delay doing it again, give it better water quality. I think Dan's kind of saying the same thing.
So Dan, you're saying do the whole project and not
Do it
come
right.
back with $500,000?
Yeah.
These other 2 spots.
Well, if I remember right, just the setup, I'm trying to pull it up right
It's
now.
210,000. Well, then the traffic, so you add that, actually 241.
Yeah, it was 241,000.
So we pay that all over again for, it's like throwing that away.
A part of the the traffic issue, the longer the project goes, that number might go up a little bit because it is in a school zone and they're going to have to do some extra care there.
Yeah, but the 31 was based on the full project, not the
Yeah.
partial projects.
So, I mean, from a budget standpoint, what do you think?
I understand where the commission wants to go with it, do the maximum project, but I also think you got to balance some other projects that are in there. And the recommendation from the Public Works Department is that this is enough to get enough benefit for that money. So I would then spread some of those resources out, all the other projects that we have. So we get enough relief from this, so there's not really a need to do everything. So therefore, you want to save some of your powder for the next project.
But if we did this, and we're doing another one in 2 years, I mean, it's
I
not
think
like.
if we're dredging this enough to give us enough relief at this pond for the next 10 to 15 years without having to go into that area. So therefore, we've got another $1 million to spread out in the community somewhere else.
Last question for me. So if you don't do this, because what we're moving is sediment stuff that's settled in from the drainage already, right?
Well, you're moving a huge mat of vegetation.
Yeah, but also part of that dirt was a lot of the junk that we're taking out as far as the, what you call the dirt on
Sediment.
the sediment on the bottom. So if we didn't do this, wouldn't that eventually start working its way over and settling back over, cleaning out?
It could a little bit. I don't think there's a whole lot of flow internal to the lake. But it could equalize a little.
What would we do with the other 650,000? That's the difference. What other projects would we do?
The other ones we talked about, we could do drainage stuff.
We've got a small list of, a list of smaller projects that we will be working on some of them anyway. There's
They're not in that red committed cash.
Correct. There's only basically 3 projects in the committed cash. This project, the project with the water district out at the Lake Denham site, and then the project that we're doing with the state on 9th Street. Is that
Yes.
Those are, so it's $500,000, $500,000, and $1 million. So you had about go back to that chart, Randy, if you will, please.
And 600,000 is the annual
got-
number that comes in?
So, right around 600,000 is the difference between
So you've got-
revenues and the normal operating expenses.
So that orange number is about $2 million. So those three jobs, $500,000, $500,000, and $1 million.
The DOT number is already out of here, and this is where the DOT money left. I think that, I can't quite read that, but I think that's what that says, right? That's the DOT $424,000.
Well, so I got that
So it's
wrong. So
already out.
but then there's 3.
So
What were the
this
3
project for
projects? Is
1.2,
this one
the $500,000
for Lake Denham?
for Lake Denham, and then the other smaller items that we've got underway.
So Lake Denham was $500,000. This is $1 million, and then there's about another $500,000 in smaller projects. So if you didn't do this at all, you're basically looking at $2 million available in the stormwater fund, plus what we'll take in next year.
You know, think about it. Get a public comment.
Yeah.
Any public comment? All right, commissioners, how do you want to proceed?
I don't have a strong opinion on it. I mean, I started it. I just, I guess I'd like to see, I remember it being dredged about 10 years ago, or maybe it wasn't to this level, but I do remember seeing things hauled off 10 years ago. It seems like a problem lake. All I was trying to say is, did we spend a few more bucks and get it right? Well, but I don't have a strong opinion on it.
Commissioner Dennison, anything?
No, I kind of agree with doing the thing in total and getting it over with. There's some conversation going on, you know?
Well,
There is. I'll let you in on it.
Let us in on it, Al. And for the public, the stormwater funds can't be spent in other parts of the city. So I don't want people think we're playing around with $1 million. I guess like we can just put it somewhere else. So this has to be spent on stormwater projects. So that's why, I don't want anybody to walk out and say, oh, they just threw $1 million away, move some muck, and they could have did it to build something else. So these funds are collected for these purposes, and we can only use them for these type of purposes. So Al, you can
I know. I regret informing you on a the conversation here, but it just is one of the things that pop up is what else would you spend the money on? And one of the biggest complaints that you all receive is 9th Street Canal. So if I'm in your shoes, I'd be sitting, well, why the hell are we spending $1.1 million on this when 9th Street Canal is the bigger problem? Dredging and mucking and getting the vegetation out of 9th Street Canal, in this case, we don't think has the same type of water quality impact. It's already in the lake. That's why the 9th Street project with DOT is a big project, because that's pre-treatment. So this is a kind of a pre-treatment before. Is that what you, is how you would say, no, we really can't do 9th Street Canal with stormwater?
In terms of jurisdiction, we look at the 9th Street Canal as a Lake County Water Authority issue, which they have never really put much effort into.
Are there other projects, like treatment projects, for us to do? Because those, to me, seem to have more benefit long term.
And there are some treatments. There's a couple of culvert projects, but those are small, well within our funding ability outside of this project.
But nothing like the one we're doing for 9th Street Canal. We don't have anything that's not funded that we could fund to treat a lot of water.
No. I would offer, if you're uncertain about doing this portion or the whole thing, we could bring it back later as a change order to the original contract, if that were a preference.
Say that
Well,
again.
I'm kind of just, now that I know we have multiple projects, I'm a little bit on the fence. I think it'd be good to redo the whole thing, but if any of y'all have a strong opinion, if you'll say it, I'll vote with you. 'Cause I don't care.
I guess where I'm at is I want to see what other projects we're going to do. So I'd be okay with a change order if you bring us other projects and I say, well, I'd rather just do this than those. But I kind of feel I don't know what I'm deciding.
Well,
for.
the budget process includes the stormwater CIP projects. They're right there.
But I don't know which ones you're going to have for next year, which is what we're talking about.
Can we amend the
Can this
contract?
set-
Can we approve it today and change it in a month or two while they're already?
The change
How
order
long-
could come after the budget process.
How long is the bid good for, Mike? Do we have 90 days before we need to move on it?
Yeah, but we're approaching that because we've been talking with them so long.
We
So
went
if we
through it.
go to July 9 meeting, are we still within it?
I have to wait.
Couldn't we just approve this and then just do
And
the
then
change
if
order
we wanted
for
to,
additional?
since it's a per unit price, we could
If
add
you're
it
good
we
with
so.
if you're good with going at this level, then yeah.
The smaller level.
No, I
The
thought
rec-
it said that we could change this even, so we could come back in 2 weeks, and since it's per unit price, we could just add that to it with a change order and take it
Well,
up to the whole
let-
job.
Yes.
Okay.
We're talking the same thing, except
we
that we
wanted
do
to.
it July 9th, not the 24th.
I think
We
we're
go
comfortable
there for
approving a
this.
smaller amount now.
Yeah, we can do that.
All right. So approve it at this level, and then we'll give you a more report at the 8th.
Perfect.
So everybody understand what we're doing, all right? All right. You good?
Sorry to complicate that, DC.
No problem.
Mike, we legal? All right.
Well, you're surprised.
Well, Fred didn't move yet, so I'm thinking Fred was okay with it. So, Fred, we legal? Yes. All right. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Hurley,
Yes.
Commissioner Dennison,
Yes,
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Roebuck,
Yes.
Mayor Christian.
Yes. 4C2, 1. 4C1. It's a resolution, so I'd like to make a motion to introduce it.
I'll introduce and ask to be read by title only, please.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Leesburg, Florida, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute a lease agreement with BHI Properties of Central Florida LLC for property located at the Leesburg International Airport, physical address 32720 Echo Drive, Leesburg, Florida 34788, and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Second.
Move to proper second discussion.
I'm the one that pulled this one, and it's just to be clear and on record. I did talk to Al, and I think he cleared up my concerns. But is Tracy here? And the only my issues are two part. number one, I want to make sure I understand this, and then also I want to make sure going forward, because we've had so much discussion over the last 6 years with airport leases. Excuse me. So this is a piece of property that finally ended its long-term lease, reverted back to the city, at which point you do a fair market value lease based on the whole piece of property instead of just a land lease. So if I'm understanding right, we're doing this one, though this lease is set up to do 16 cents a foot land lease, a purchase price on the building for $60,000. They are responsible for the build out, upgrades, and all of that themselves. And it is for 20 years with 2 5-year renewals.
Yes, sir.
Is that correct?
Yes.
So I'm fine with that. And I know they'll do a good job. They've got a lot out there already. My point was but I had thought we were working towards, getting to where instead of the 16 cents a foot or whatever, we were going back to what fair market value would be on something like that, whether it's, $800 a month or $2,500 a month or whatever that was, opposed to these land leases. And I think this one almost kind of turns out to be the same thing because they're giving us $60,000 cash for the building, which will revert back to us at the end. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I just wanted to be very clear on that for my own sake and some that were reading it that were a little confused.
Commissioner Hurley, throughout the appraisal, they also looked at what our fair market value is per square foot for land. In the appraisal, there is a comparison, and that is fair market value for our land. There are comparisons in there as well, in addition to for the structure itself.
Yeah, I knew we were good on the land. I just was kind of thinking we were going to do it as a lump sum lease instead of a purchase lease together. So that's what kind
And they come out ahead because if you took
I
the
think-
4085 and you went up 2% a year, you'd be paying like $6,000 in year 20, and then probably like $8,000 in year 30. And so we'd end up getting a lot more than $60,000 if you discount that back, of course. But given the jobs and other stuff and what they're doing, I'm okay with it.
Yeah. And
If it was a private hangar, I'd probably feel differently.
well, and I don't think that, it said there was approximately $150,000 worth of improvements to be made. And obviously it's going to be less than that, but I'm good with it. So I just wanted to make sure I was clear on this so later on I don't hit myself on the side of the head.
Any other discussion from the commission? From the public? Roll call.
Commissioner Dennison?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Roebuck?
Yes.
Commissioner Hurley?
Yes.
Mayor Christian?
Yes. Item 4C2 is a resolution. Would someone like to introduce it?
I'll introduce, has to be read by title only.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Leesburg, Florida, authorizing and directing the mayor and city clerk to execute a vacant land contract between the City of Leesburg and Romac Lumber and Supply, Inc. for the purpose of providing terms for the sale of a portion of abandoned railroad right-of-way and waiving certain setback requirements otherwise applicable to the property being sold and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Second.
I need you to abstain.
And Commissioner Roebuck is abstaining from this. Discussion from the commission. Discussion from the public. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Hurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Dennison?
Yes.
Mayor Christian?
Yes. Item 4C6, also a resolution. Would someone like to introduce it, please?
I'll introduce, has to be read by title only.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Leesburg, Florida, authorizing and directing the mayor and city clerk to execute a vacant land contract between the City of Leesburg and George M. Asbate for the sale of surplus city-owned property at 1102 East North Boulevard, Leesburg, and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Second.
Discussion from the commission.
Yeah, I'd ask this to be brought back. Would Mr. Grizzard be available to give us some information on what the future use of the property might be?
Thank you, Hershey.
Oh.
I'm looking for other brokers over here to give you that information. Government money is supposed to be here. But, I had given Al.
Okay, come to the microphone, Mr. Grizzard.
I'm Tom Grizzard. lived in Leesburg all my life. I had given Al the original contract together with the county tax assessor's record. Also some information that the potential purchaser of this property also bought the adjoining 2 lots just to the east of it, between there and the boat dealership. And I don't remember the exact numbers, but in the neighborhood of $78,000 to $80,000 he paid for each of those single-family houses. And I think that's where he came up with a value to him of the vacant lot, didn't have a house on it, a half price. In conversations with Al, I went back to him with the idea, said, well, would he pay $57,900 for that? And he said no. But Carolyn Mamoni, the other broker, said that she had talked with a couple of the commissioners, said they wanted more information, and she was supposed to be here tonight to give you that information that you would ask for, and I'm not even sure what that was.
I talked to her, it was on setbacks, and maybe Dan can help us or something, but she represented that with the setbacks that there just wasn't, you couldn't put much of a building on it. But because he's an adjoining property owner, it has more value to him. So I'll just chime in on that. What I said in the last meeting, Tom, was I knew it'd been on the market a long time. I didn't know how long. I think I said 18 months, but it's been a while.
It's been at least 18 months.
Okay, because my comment was it's been tested on the market for quite a while. I forget the list price, but
The list price initially was 70, and then we dropped it. But we never had even one single inquiry.
yeah, and that was good enough for me. I mean, it's been on the market that long.
It's mid-block. It doesn't have any median cut. Give good access to it. So.
Well, I thought though that I was told that it was going to be converted over to commercial property, like a little shopping strip or something.
What Carolyn told me, he said they were using it as parking.
But and this is the information I wanted was what are they going to use the property for? Because I feel like we're selling it under, we don't have an appraisal, but it's under what it would appraise for, way under the property appraisers, and I just want to know what it's used for. So I'm a no until I get that information. I think that's reasonable. I mean, we don't have the other broker show up, which is disappointing. I know it's not your fault. So
I mean, that's
Just from staff perspective, I know Commissioner Hurley and Commissioner Dennison was absent, and that's why this carried over. So our perspective was, Mr. Grizzard brought this proposed deal to us. We presented it to the commission at the last meeting with the 3 commissioners here, and I think essentially the commission had 2 perspectives on this. A, what was it going to be used for, and B, some questioning of the price. Mr. Peterson indicated pretty much exactly what he said now at the last meeting. I think Commissioners Roebuck and Mayor Christian, if I can speak for you, a little concerned about use and concerned about price. So with that information, I went back to Mr. Grizzard. I said, hey, here were the issues. Mr. Grizzard indicated that he understood that the use would be for joining up with Holiday Marine. So that's all that's where we're at. And I said, well, why don't you do the offer? Because they're a little concerned about price at the appraised value, which I think was $59,700.
Right.
That offer was rejected. Mr. Grizzard and I had a conversation on that, and I said, well, at $40,000, let's see if the commission will bite on that. I don't know if they will or not, but I'll pose it back to the commission with the information that I have. So that's the information I have. The only other information I have, Commissioner Dennison asked me today just to run the numbers to see what the city has invested in the parcel, and that number is about just a little bit over $19,000. We did get the property in a code enforcement action. And then we spent just a little over $17,000, or I think that it was just a little under $17,000. I think the exact number is like $16,702 to demolish it. And then we spent a little under $2,000 on taxes and mowing the grass. So we're into it for about $19,200, less the commission that we would pay to Grizzard, and so we would net positive out of the deal. So it's up to you on whether you think that's a reasonable offer and what the use is going to be.
The other piece of property next to that, I mean, we were involved in that because it had big code enforcement violations, remember?
No, that's the one that.
That's
is
the
not
one
Holiday
immediately
Marine.
next
I know, that's what
to,
I'm talking about.
It'd be
I
three
thought this
parcels.
was-
You got
it's three
beside
parcels
that.
to the
You got two
east.
houses between.
I know, what I'm saying is when that lot sold for
84.
84 and it had a house that had to be demoed, is my point.
Right.
This one doesn't have anything that has to be demoed, and we've already done all that, and we're gonna sell it for 40?
Yeah, the only
smaller too.
the only difference I would say in that is the other parcel where the house was being purchased directly by the owners of Holiday Marine. So we knew, and it was next door to that.
And we
So-
talked to them about,
and
hey,
they
if we do this, we
represented
need some nice
themselves
fencing
here.
and we need some other stuff because it's on a
And-
corridor.
And they did that.
Yeah,
And
they did. It was nice.
they lived up, and the difference is here, we think that this is what it's going to be used for.
And it's not going to Holiday Marine. I called and asked them. They had one conversation with the guy and felt that the price wasn't anywhere reasonable. So.
It appears that he is continuing to lease those two existing houses that he just recently purchased.
Okay.
It appears that somebody's living there.
And that's my concern is that we're going to have something that's going to not improve our corridor.
Right.
Well, I was told by Carolyn Mamoni that it was gonna be a commercial, whether our parcel was the parking lot or not, I don't know because of size, but that the purpose of it was so that they could build like a little shopping strip there or something.
Well, I would bet long-term, he's assembling it for something like that.
Yeah.
But he wants setbacks in order to go through with this deal, correct?
How Carolyn explained it to me was on its own with the setbacks, it's a very small, you have to put a
Right.
very, very small building on it. But because he's a joining property owner, it has more value to him. I stand by my simple comment. It's been on the market for 18 plus months. Nobody wants it. I say we get rid of it.
Well, my only comments is, I guess, as a city, we acquired through code enforcement, and we have, to me, a responsibility to, and we talked about improving our quarters. Selling this property, we have no control. We have no say so. Holiday Marine came in, we told them, look, we want you to do the fencing. They agreed to it, and they did it. With this, we have no say so.
We would do that when he filed for a site plan, which is what Holiday did.
It may not come to us, though.
Okay.
So, and I guess that's if the city hadn't torn this property down, hadn't worked to get this property code enforcement, and if I got control of it, I want to make sure it does what I need to do, whether it be adjoining to a small strip mall or whether it be assembling the pieces. I think the realtor who's going to get a commission should. Been here 5:30. Nothing against you, Mr. Gazar, but I think the person, she didn't call me, so apparently I wasn't that important. So my votes are definitely a no until she shows up and tell me what they're going to do with the property. So
I didn't get a call.
You didn't get a call
I don't know
either,
which
so that's why we know both. I guess maybe she called us. She could have got a yes.
I made a call because I was curious.
I didn't know who to call. Well, any comments from the public?
Hey, if I can, if there's no before the public comment, just so kind of net, how I would advise you on this is the city will net 6% after the commission. I'm assuming that's what the commission is, right? So we'll net 18.6 for a parcel that you would sell that can be developed as C3. So anything in our list of C3 that's in our land development code is what could go there.
Any comments from the commission? Well, for me, I think if Ms. Carolyn was here, I would probably have a different opinion. But I just like to see them come and tell me what's going to happen here.
Would you like us to table this until Carolyn can be here to present
Yes. I'll hog tie her and make sure she's here next time.
it? So I moved to table.
We'll put it back on the 24th.
Yeah.
Unless
after-
the commissioners
Can we go
Roebuck
after
and
that?
Hurley, you will go back to the 8th. Okay, so we'll put it back on the 8th,
The 8th?
July.
Okay.
Thank
Thank you.
And we do have a second for that table, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you. You need roll call on that?
Okay. Commissioner Roebuck,
Is this a table?
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Hurley,
Yes.
Commissioner Dennison,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
No.
Mayor Christian.
Yes. Item 5A is comprehensive public hearings and non-routine items. 5A is a second reading. Someone like to introduce it?
Introduce and ask to be read by title only.
An ordinance amending the comprehensive plan for the city of Leesburg, Florida, changing the future land use map designation of certain property containing approximately 70 acres, being generally located west of County Road 468 south and east of Lewis Road, lying in sections 16, 17, and 20, Township 19 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, from industrial to neighborhood mixed use and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Second.
Moved and properly second. Discussion from the commission.
And I know we have a bunch of these on this, but I'll just go ahead and ask. So there was some concern, I'm sure we all got the email, about the traffic on 468 specifically. It doesn't appear that there's much of this property on 468. Is this one of Greg's projects, I think?
Yes.
Right? Yeah. If you wouldn't mind coming up, and can you talk about what like where, and some on Lewis Road, like where are the entrances? Where's the traffic gonna flow?
Do you have the
Can't
in
put
the
that
file?
up.
Do you have the comp plan on the PUD or the master plan on the PUD on the next item?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go.
Go ahead and put that on the next item is the PUD, and it'll show you where the main access points are. Since the item came up for, here we go. You want to back it up, or it goes onto your computer.
I think that's far off I go.
Just back it up so we get 460. No, keep it that way. Just back it up. There you go. The main entrance is on 468 south of the Lewis Road intersection. It's a dual boulevard going into the project. That will be a lighted dual boulevard with a traffic signal. Secondary entrance will be on the south side, just south of Rhymes Elementary. And those are the only two access points on 468. That secondary entrance will be the first entrance for phase one. But once phase one is completed and we move up to the main entrance,
Are
that
any
one will be
improvements
signalized.
being done at the first
First
entrance?
phase, where's the first phase starts in phase one in the southeast. Then it moves to the next phase is here's phase one, and we move north for phases two, and this is the commercial component with the main traffic signal, main boulevard. We've actually reduced the number of traffic connections to the project from the first PUD. We only have 4 now. The one there, here, on Lewis, and on the southwest corner on Lewis here. We are also providing right-of-way on Lewis along the entire north boundary of our property, along Lewis here, and we worked out with Lake County Public Works for a new transition on Lewis. We're donating the right-of-way here to the county so they can make a nice C-curve here to make it an easier transition when you're driving down Lewis to go down to heading south.
So Greg, on phase one on Pruitt.
Yep.
Are you doing any improvements coming on Pruitt?
We don't anticipate any because this is going to be a short term to come in on the first phase. And once we head north, we'll do whatever the county wants us to do. It's a county road. We'll coordinate with the county on the intersection and on Pruitt. If they want us to do anything on here, we'll require any requirements. We've got to get permits from them to do those. Also,
so that's just going to be a stop sign?
right now it is, and it's going to be a future access on a future phase as the project builds out. But this will be a secondary access at most. Main access points will be at the main component going through the boulevard. If the county wants us to do any other improvements down here, we'll comply. We have to do a traffic study. On every phase, that was the comment made by the MPO, done by the county, and done by the state when they reviewed it for the comp plan review. At every phase, we have to do a traffic study. We have to submit that traffic study based on the phase impacts and the cumulative impacts as we move forward on each phase. And since this is a county road system, these are county roads, 468 and Lewis Road. Every phase does a new traffic study, the cumulative effects of what that phase, the future phase. We then have to address those impacts do we do a turn lanes, etc.? We have to accommodate, and we have to comply, or we don't move forward. So, and we understand that your LDRs require us to do that anyway, and we have to submit those same traffic studies back through that same pipeline.
Now,
So
how
there's
many-
checks and balances through all those.
How many homes can you build in phase 1 before you have to do the signalized intersection?
Oh, the traffic warrants require us to do when we get to that intersection, we'll have to do the traffic warrant study.
Right. And how many homes can you build before you get there?
Well, it won't be until we get to that intersection.
Yeah.
So when
And
he's
how
in-
many homes
yeah.
is that?
So you gonna start building phase 1 without doing the
Oh no,
intersection?
phase one's 180 units.
And then
Phase 2 is another 180, and
then when does the
Yeah, when you build that.
Does that make
well, let me
sense?
just tell you, traffic signals trip when you get to around between 800 and 1,000 homes. Because we didn't have to do a traffic signal on Royal Highlands on US 27 on that Pringle development until we hit the last phase, and that's when the traffic warrant triggered that traffic.
And this is based on the traffic studies in the county.
Yes. Yeah, we have no
So traffic engineers are going to
Traffic
say when there's too
engineers,
much traffic
yes.
based on data,
Yes.
put it in.
They put all the data together, and then they say, okay, now you need a traffic signal.
Okay.
And so that's when and I'm giving you round numbers, because I was surprised it took so late to get a traffic signal at Royal Highlands.
Right.
Because I thought we were going to have to get one around 7:50, and they didn't have to get one until they got
Right.
traffic.
The data.
Greg, let me add this, because you're going down a road of what trips a review by the commission. And so there's kind of, in my mind, three things, and so I think it's important the commission understands this. There'll be like three things that will actually trip this being reviewed. One is the traffic light issue, which Mr. Belleville spoke to, 800, so that's out there. There's going to be two things that trip this at your level even before it goes to that. The first one is the requirement in the PUD that you put in on the industrial property. Remember, there's the industrial
Right.
donut hole.
Right here.
I think the PUD states that they can only build phase 1 and phase 2.
We stopped at
Was
550.
it 3?
No.
It was 550
Yeah.
units. So that's 1, 2, and part of 3
Yeah.
before they have to come back and fix and have ownership of that donut hole.
And then we come back for an amendment.
And then also there's also a utility infrastructure issue there too on the sewer system. We've indicated to them that they can build up to about 500 houses depending on how they feed one lift station or not. So they'll be back 2 times probably on growth review, where you'll have ways to kind of monitor the growth of the subdivision
Yeah, and that's what
before
I'm getting
you
at, because,
even
the
hit
feedback
the
is
traffic
we're
issue.
approving 1,200 homes. In reality, we're approving 550 homes, and then we're going to have the ability to evaluate.
Right, the plan.
how that's
Well,
going when they come back.
you're approving 1,200 homes, but there's some trips in there that's not going to let them get to the full amount unless
I understand we're approving, but they can build 550.
they're ready to
right
go
now.
on 550.
And then we come back to there, and we've worked out the water and sewer. We've already had meetings with both Al and DC on the agreements for water and sewer extensions, and so that agreement's going to be coming before you to cement that agreement so we can get the water and sewer beefed up to advance past the 550. And so those are all ongoing things progress along with this project. And again, those are progressive things that move forward. And those are the things that are just, because this is a large project. And this is not a small project, and the large projects have those built-in things usually that have to progress along with them.
Edgewood, is that an entrance exit on Edgewood?
No, we couldn't get an entrance off Edgewood. There is no right-of-way on Edgewood. The county has none, so we could not do any improvements here. We're hoping in the future, if there can be, we'll work with the county to get through. We originally were actually going to put our main entrance here, but we found we couldn't because there's no right-of-way. It's a prescriptive road.
Same thing with Schoolview?
Same thing. They're just blocked. But I would like to get on the record, though, because based on the letter that did come in to you and the fact of traffic, we did have a professional traffic consultant do an evaluation, because you have to with a comprehensive plan amendment that has to go up to the state for review. So for on the record, I would like to state that the future land use comprehensive plan amendment did show a reduction between our request and the current future land use designations. The actual trip numbers were that new external road trips in the current existing future land use are 6,214 total. Under the amendment, that drops to 1,810. So there's actually a reduction in trips based on this new land use versus the old land use. And that's because of the 80 acres of industrial. That really puts road traffic on 468. Then when we looked at the PUD, the old PUD versus the new PUD. The old PUD versus the new PUD, our current PUD reduces the trip impacts by 4,404. So we actually have a reduction in traffic impacts on the new version versus the old version. So we actually were better in both scenarios. So, but that doesn't mean we're not going to have road impacts. It means we're better in the new condition than the old condition, and we are going to have to monitor our roads every time we do a phase, and we'll have to be required to meet the recommendations and requirements of what the county requires us to do on all these roads as we address each phase. Okay. And you'll know what those are. I mean, those will be presented to Dan when we come in, and those will be available, to the public when those are submitted.
All right, commissioners, any comments before we open up for public comment?
Just one thing.
Yes, ma'am.
Was this the project that we insisted on having curbs?
Oh, yes, and we're doing the curb and gutters.
Okay, and is that in this agreement?
Oh, yes, it is.
Can you tell me where?
Dan, he'll
It's in the PUD.
he'll tell you where.
No, it's in the PUD.
All right.
Yeah.
Any comments from the public on this project? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
30 minutes, right, Mr. Mayor?
3 minutes, please.
I represent 9 homeowners this evening, so I asked for 27 minutes.
2 minutes and 30 seconds.
I'm Gary Blanchard, and I have spoken with you about
Yes, sir.
this, so
And we got your email.
we're on friendly terms, and
Yes,
you got
sir.
the email.
Yes,
Good.
sir.
Did everybody get the email? I mean, I know I sent it kind of late. Good, then I'll just kind of skip right to the chase here. So just to clarify, and this is educational. So the red light that's going to be put in between Griffin Road and Lewis Road at the main grand entrance is going to go in place after there's 500 homes in place? Is that what I just heard? Okay, help me. After there's 180 homes.
No, I didn't say that. I'll clarify.
Mr. Blanchard,
After I said,
yeah,
I'm sorry.
he'll give a rebuttal.
Okay. Well, my whole thing is about safety for the whole neighborhood, the whole area out there, and children specifically. As you know, there's a school down the road there, and children from Terra Woods will be going to school there, I'm sure. There's no infrastructure there by the city. There's no sidewalks. The road's what it is. You've got the UPS trucks coming and going. You've got the other big tractor trailers coming and going. As I noted in my email there from RSG Roofing Supply Group, I'm so glad to see that building being used. Dump trucks from DAB coming and going on Griffin Road, modular buildings behind them being made and coming out on those roads. Just lots and lots and lots of traffic. It's already tough to get in and out. Lewis Road, by the way, which is, you don't have any control over. The county owns that, maintains it, sorta. It already has lots, it's had problems for years. And unless we call up and complain, they don't do anything about it because they don't know the problems there. But Rhymes Early Learning Center down there, buses coming in and out, children, mothers and dads taking kids to school. It's just, it's going to be it's already tough out there. And you're going to make it tough by building these homes real fast. They'll go in real fast, and that's great. It's going to provide a lot of jobs, and we're going to hire more police officers and buy new police cars and all that, and that's great. So anyway, is that 2.5 minutes?
Any questions for Mr. Blanchard? You might have some questions. We got this long email.
Sorry. Well, and Mr. Mayor, I hope it's okay to send those emails.
Yeah, you're fine. You're fine. It gives us a lot to read before and we're better prepared before we get here,
Yeah,
sir.
and I would have sent it sooner, but Apologize.
No. Any questions? I know many of you probably talked to Mr. Blanchard. I do appreciate you, voicing your concern for the entire community.
Yeah, well, for most of them anyway.
No, I guess just based on his comment, more question for Al or DC. If the project were to happen, and say we got 500-800 homes, how does the sidewalk process go? Because we would then certainly need those sidewalks.
Do you know the answer to that, TC?
DC.
Or that might be a Dan question too. The sidewalk construction is incremental towards as the houses are built, the sidewalk is built. So there'd be sidewalk up the linking roads into the neighborhoods. So
But then we'd have to link them to the schools, fill in those gaps.
We're talking about sidewalks on 468, not in the development.
And that's
I think that's the challenge, and the county road again, and
we've had some discussions with the county about that.
The county putting sidewalks on Griffin, and they have initiated a Safe Routes to Schools project that goes along Griffin and actually connects across 468 to Rhyme School, so that you can go along Griffin and get to the school on sidewalks once those sidewalks are in. Doesn't include going north on 468 north of Griffin.
Right.
And that would have to go through the county.
But so if this project goes ground, then we would need to go probably approach the county about that. Absolutely. Is what you're saying. I mean, they would get more money than we are off property taxes. So
they'll probably be more amenable now. They got some ad valorem tax income. They may put some sidewalks up. Any other comments? Any other public comment? I know Brian, you had your hand up. Come to the microphone, sir. Give us your name.
Brian Hart. I just wanted more information. So where the mouse is, that's Rhymes right there, correct?
Yes, school view.
Okay. So my biggest concern is what are y'all doing like with the Pure Street? Is it just going to be, like you said, just the stop sign, or is it going to be, I know it's, I think it's a sidewalk already right there, but what impact are y'all having with what's going to be put right there to better serve the community for the people that are walking right there? Because I know right now it's a lot of cars that's lined up right there in the grass once the school is in. So I just need more information about that.
First of all, is there anybody else? David, you can answer. Could you bring it down just a little bit on Lewis, please? Hello.
Let's give your name.
Squires.
Okay.
Yep.
John Squires.
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 Right there at the corner where the first leg of Lake Viva, right there in the Ave, that's my sector right there. There's a green buffer that runs all the way around this whole section of this whole property. It's considered a 50-foot clean area, or environmental area, and how much enforced is that going to be? Will it always stay that way? I mean, can they take that away? The reason why I'm asking, on my sector right there, there's probably 3 champion trees on my line, which is at least 200-year-old oaks, and many ones behind it. And since this is a place that's been here for a while, are they able to destroy any of them? And if so, are they going to put up a giant wall, or how's that going to work out? I don't know how that works out. And it's right there, that green line right there.
Under
more questions too.
Under the PUD section 8B buffer areas, there's a 50-foot wide existing vegetative buffer that's required along Lewis Road, adjacent to the northern and western, just like it shows on the map. This buffer shall retain all existing healthy trees which are 4-inch caliper and greater. A caliper is measured at, it's either 48 or 54 inches, the diameter of the tree. So anything over 4 inches at about this high has to stay. So that would take care of the big oaks.
And this is enforced, right? That means like they can't come in and rechange this?
Correct. It would have to go through a PUD amendment, this whole entire process again in order to change that.
Amen.
I don't think they want to do that.
That's wonderful. And my other question, I'm going to lead up to what Gary was saying. I'm up pretty early in the morning, like around 4 o'clock, because I work on a farm. And you'll see school buses going down there. You'll see fire trucks coming down there, you'll see a major, traffic right now coming off of, like, say, Pembroke, everywhere. I think the light would be better if possible at 468 and Lewis. The reason being is because you're dumping off of Pembroke Road, Pembroke, construction area, or Pembroke residential area, and everything else is coming down there, and they're using this as the police use it, the fire people use it, the city uses it. Everybody knows Leesburg, that's our back road. And if you think about it, when you was a kid, that's when you come into Leesburg.
Right.
And everybody knows this road, and everybody's told everybody about this road. Even the villagers are coming down this road now. So I'm just letting you know, that might be an option to look at in that area. So that would be something to look at. Now, when it comes to the road of Lewis Road, I measured it. This is a country road. This has never been upgraded and width-wise. So I'm just letting you know, this is an old country road where two cars pass and you're looking at each other close. You can slap off. You can high-five it. So is it possible that this developer could possibly put in a larger road if he's going to do that?
If you're done, I'll address Lewis Road.
Okay.
Yeah, well, thank you, sir.
I'll attack Lewis Road first. We reduced our access points on Lewis Road, and we donated right away to Lewis Road in our negotiations with Lake County. We had multiple meetings with Lake County staff to talk about Lewis Road. We do know that they're going to do a project at Lewis Road and 468 to improve that intersection. What they do with that intersection, they may do a traffic signal, we don't know. But they're going to do improvements at that intersection. That's why they asked for right away at the other end, to do the C curve at that end. We reduced access points along Lewis Road. We actually took out the access point we had across from Wingspread. We had one lined up right across the street from your entrance, and we took it out for two reasons. One, to reduce traffic impacts to Lewis Road from us, and to make Wingspread happy, so that we wouldn't have any more traffic impacts to them. So we tried to do that as a remedial action to the Wingspread community. We actually took out one other access point on Lewis facing west. There was one about midpoint there. We took it out and left the one on the south side. And that way, again, to reduce traffic impacts on Lewis Road on the west end. We're trying to focus almost all of our traffic impacts to this main traffic location down the dual boulevard. Trying to make that as our primary access point. That's why we're focusing our traffic there and looking at that being the focus point for the traffic signal. And I made this statement, I believe, at your first reading, and we're going to work with the school board to get the buses to come into the site, do a loop within our project, and then exit our site at the traffic signal to head south again on 468 to get the buses off of 468 to pick up the children within our project, so that they aren't basically having to free flow and try to pick up kids, or in some cases they try to put a stop right on the main boulevard, try to bring them in and get them off of the traffic flow into our project. So they basically do the loops internal and then just motor off on 468 to reduce traffic impacts that way. Like I said, we had multiple meetings with Lake County to address these issues, to reduce our impacts, work with them, gave them right away so that they can do the improvements themselves on Lewis Road. To get down to Pruitt Street.
Can I ask a question about Lewis Road?
Yeah.
I know there's a 50-foot buffer. You said you donated right away.
Mm-hmm.
How much is that? I mean, is there the 50-foot vegetated?
The 50-foot buffer is south of the right-of-way. It's a 50-foot vegetated buffer, and we're required to put a wall.
I guess my question is, what if the county comes in and widens this road? Are we going to just lose the vegetative buffer?
No. The buffer
the
is south of the right-of-way donation.
Okay, thank you.
So you've got a wall, 50 feet of vegetation, then you have our lots. So that way you've got basically that buffer to the Lewis Road impacts. Now let's get back to Pruitt. We're going to have a sidewalk connection to Pruitt. We've got already identified turn lanes on the intersection of Pruitt and 468. So David has already had preliminary discussions with Lake County Public Works on turn lane requirements there. And we haven't even submitted the full traffic study yet. So we already know we're going to have to do that. Our discussions were already there with the stacking for Rhymes, taking into consideration the Pruitt Street issue for that. And the county wants to work with us on that to actually improve the stacking issue on Rhymes. And we just told them to use your resource center parking lot, and they said, okay, we'll work with it. No, we didn't.
What's that one, Bill?
We didn't say that. No, we recognize Rhymes being there and working with the school board and that stacking issue. So we felt we beat the traffic issue to death with all the coordination we've done with all the agencies, with David's work, and by reducing the number of turns, impacts, connections.
All right, well, stay close, Greg. Any other public comment? Yes, sir. Real quick. Yes, sir.
I mean, that just stands to reason. If you have an opening coming in, it looks like in front of Grace Bible Baptist reference. Okay, if that happens, and I'm living in this community, I'm not going to follow the buses out. I'm going to find another access to get out of this place. And you got to access coming in over on the other part of Lewis. Then this one, so somewhere along the line, they're going to be using these 2 dump out points to stay away from the buses and all the traffic heading in the direction you're talking about, right with the light. Wouldn't you, if you were living in a community?
Are you done?
Basically.
Yeah.
Real quick, Greg.
You're looking at basically peak hour AM, peak hour PM. When the buses only come basically 3 times a day. You got AM, well actually twice a day, 3 times, because you got AM for high school and elementary, and then you got middle school, then you got PM when they drop them back off. We had to have another access point on Lewis because we just couldn't survive with this number of units with 2 on 468 and 1 on Pembroke, and that was it. We had to have another one. And having the other one on Lewis made sense. And again, it's not unreasonable to have that many, and we've already done the analysis, and Lake County is happy with where we have them. They feel it's adequate, and it's not going to be an overburden, and they're going to track it, and they're going to, and like I said, with the mitigation and the extractions they've taken from us for Lewis Road and the future to Lewis Road, like you said, like the testimony that's been done here today, our back door on the southwest corner, the folks that are going to go out that exit across from Pembroke are going to be heading south. They're not going to be circling around again to head north and go out to come up to 468. They're going to go out that exit and head south to go down to 44.
All right.
So that's why that's what we're looking.
All right. Any other public comment? Okay, commissioners, final thoughts and roll call.
I just want to point out, because there's a lot of talk about traffic and a lot about the county, because a lot of projects we do, this isn't the only one, we build them and the county's responsible for the traffic. But they have to do studies, and traffic engineers have to take the data and do things that way. They don't just guess. And then people might wonder how they pay for it. Well, if this project were to get built out at 1,200 homes, the county's going to get somewhere around $1.4 million a year. They're not going to have to provide any services. They don't have to hire sheriff, deputies, and firefighters because we provide those services. The schools are going to get another, $1.5 million. So if these projects get built out, the money is there for these improvements. I think it's important to understand that.
Plus the road impact fees they're going to get.
Yeah, but we haven't even talked about road impact fees yet.
Yeah, the commissioners. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Hurley? Commissioner Dennison?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Roebuck?
Yes.
Mayor Christian?
Yes. Item 5B, also second reading.
I'll introduce and ask, be read by title only, please.
Excuse me. An ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, rezoning approximately 318 acres generally located west of County Road 468, south and east of Lewis Road, lying in sections 16, 17, and 20, Township 19 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, from PUD Planned Unit Development to PUD Planned Unit Development and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Second.
Discussion from the commission.
Who was that clapped?
Mr. Saheed,
Developer.
our client.
The owner.
The owner.
He's been at this for so long.
Very happy, and I thank you.
But I'll ask you to be respectful next time, because people are here with concerns that they blew out of them. And we're not here to be braggadocious or arrogant and throw it in their face. So they have legitimate issues. We feel like you are doing it right, and we support that, but I don't think there's any call for that.
Any comments from the public? Roll call.
Commissioner Dennison?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Roebuck?
Yes.
Commissioner Hurley?
Yes.
Mayor Christian?
Yes. Item 5C is also second reading. Someone like to introduce it?
I'll introduce and ask to be read by title only, please.
An ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, rezoning approximately 0.16 acres from R2 Medium Density Residential to RP Residential Professional for property generally located south of West Dixie Avenue and east of US Highway 27, as legally described in Section 26, Township 19 South, Range 24 East, and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Second.
Discussion from the commission. Discussion from the public. Yes, sir.
I'm Robert Hicks. I apologize for not being at the prior meeting when this was read the first time. I was out of town. Would have liked to have been here. I'm the trustee of the Roberta Charity Hicks Testamentary Trust, which owns the three properties, 1215, 1219, 1221 West Dixie, which are immediately west of 1211 West Dixie. The property sought to be rezoned. I respond to the petition for rezoning, strongly opposing rezoning. Among the reasons for my position, would urge all decision makers to give careful consideration to the following. The property sought to be rezoned is within a block of the Dixie Avenue intersection with 14th Street, which I would argue is the worst and most dangerous intersection in Leesburg. This section of street is frequently used by rescue vehicles, fire trucks, and police as their headquarters and hospital are nearby. The traffic in the area is already made very difficult due to the Circle K station at the southeast corner of the intersection, which results in difficulty getting into and out of that station from Dixie, with right turn only traffic coming out of that station onto Dixie and an almost continuous flow of traffic going east on Dixie from northbound 14th Street traffic. The mandatory right turn traffic on Dixie from the Circle K station already results in turnaround traffic at my office and offices across the street from me, as the traffic that was forced east often uses all means available to begin heading west as soon as possible. Rush hour traffic already results in the westbound Dixie Avenue turn lane on to 14th Street proceeding south, backing up past the property sought to be rezoned. The traffic problem extends beyond just rush hour, as there is school crossings at the intersection as well, which creates its own delays. There are traffic issues already in this area due to the public schools in the immediate area, Oak Park, Leesburg Elementary, and Leesburg High School. 1211 West Dixie, the property sought to be rezoned, has its little frontage on Dixie Avenue as any lot of any kind on its block on Dixie Avenue. The Lake County property appraiser record card shows that it has only 50 feet of frontage on Dixie Avenue. The lot has no ingress or egress by way of any other street or road. The 143-foot by 50-foot lot, which comprises 1211 West Dixie Avenue, has a total of a mere 7,150 square feet. It would be a bad precedent to allow professional zoning for such a small lot with so little frontage in this area. To my knowledge, there is no other property zoned residential professional in this block fronting Dixie. To the extent there is such zoning on property across the street, all such lots either have ingress and egress on both Dixie Avenue and Sumter Streets or have a circular drive. The current access to 1211 West Dixie is by way of a single car width concrete driveway on the west side of the residence. The west edge of that driveway ends at the east property line of the property I own at 1215 West Dixie Avenue, with the 1211 West Dixie driveway having no setback from the property line whatsoever. It is very difficult for vehicular traffic to get into and out of business properties in the area, much less to be operating with a proposed handicap of a single width driveway such as that of 1211 West Dixie. Consideration should be given to the prospect of cars coming out onto Dixie Avenue from adjoining businesses with driveways of 50 foot or less apart. A further complication is created by the fact that a bus stop is located at almost the west edge of the driveway into 1211 West Dixie, further periodically impeding ingress and egress into the property sought to be rezoned and creating a further hazard to pedestrians and vehicular traffic. It is believed that the Florida Department of Transportation is still attempting to develop means of changing the highways and traffic patterns in proximity to 1211 West Dixie and adding poorly designed and inadequately sized business properties of the nature of 1211 West Dixie can only be expected to compound the problem in the meantime. It should not be lost on decision makers that an account can be found in a December 5th, 2018 article of the Daily Commercial concerning the death of a youth in the median of Dixie Avenue, almost directly in front of the property sought to be rezoned, encouraging a plethora of inadequately premised businesses can only increase the likelihood of a similar occurrence in the future. The city of Leesburg appears to be making an effort to improve appearance of the community, particularly with its efforts in revitalizing areas of Dixie Avenue, allowing and encouraging marginal residential units such as 1211 West Dixie to be perpetuated as professional office space is counterproductive to everything the city of Leesburg appears to be about in this day and age. Were the owner of the 1211 West Dixie Avenue property to acquire 1209 West Dixie from the same owner from which it acquired 1211 West Dixie and demolish both properties and propose construction of new offices, consideration of a requested rezoning might be somewhat more appropriate.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment? Yes, sir, Mr. King. You come to the microphone, sir?
I have a number of comments.
Can you come?
Hicks gets through.
Yes, sir.
You through, Hicks?
Yes, sir, he's finished.
My name is Larry King. I've been a resident of Leesburg, Florida since I was 14 years old. 1209 Dixie Avenue is my office. Some of the things Mr. Hicks said were true, but I think most were untrue. The first thing I would like to address is the accident he said was December the 5th. That is incorrect. The accident
Address me,
was
Mr. King.
December the 4th.
Just address me, sir. Don't address him.
Come again?
Just address me. Don't address him. Just address
Okay.
me.
The accident was December the 4th. I was the one driving a car. At 6:45 that night, it was drizzling rain. It was pitch black. As I was leaving my office at 12:09, a 12-year-old boy walked in front of me. I hit him and I killed him. That accident has been with me since then. It will be with me till I go to the cemetery. I was the previous owner of 1211 West Dixie Avenue, which is this property that is under discussion. This is a concrete block building. It has been totally repainted inside and out. The window AC has been replaced with a central system. It is updated. Yes, it is 50 feet wide. There is a concrete driveway on the west side. My office, I have had an office there since 1983. So that is what, 36 years. 46 years. And anyway, this is a good place for an office. This is a 4-lane highway. There was some mention that there could only be a right turn. That is not true. I turn left every time I leave the office to go home. There's a lane in the middle of the 4-lane street. I'm sure you're all familiar with it. Should this be used as an office? Absolutely. It should be. It is my understanding that the current owner, Mr. Fernando Calderon, it's my understanding that they are going to, it has been vacant for about 1.5 years, but it's my understanding that he and his wife are going to have a small office in this structure. I think it is a good place for a professional office, and I would hope that you would agree with me and change the zoning to RP.
Thank you, sir.
If you have any questions, I know it inside and out.
Any other public comment?
We're gonna help.
No, sir. We got any other public comment? All right, commissioners, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I would just like, because this is the first time one's come up, and I looked at the community code, but if Dan could give a little clarification on what residential professional is, because I don't recall ever actually using this one. Sure we
Sir,
have.
Dan Miller, Planning and Zoning. The RP zoning is residential professional. It is very similar to a residential zoning such as R2, which is medium density residential. The difference is that it adds the ability to that zoning, such as an R2, to have a professional office. Professional office is defined, I believe, in Florida statutes as someone who has to be licensed and registered. So the office use would have to be someone such as an accountant, an attorney, a professional. It's not a commercial zoning. It doesn't allow commercial uses. So the trip generation of that use is similar to a single family. RP is a zoning that was created, I believe it was 2004, strictly with the intent, I should say, of bringing Dixie Avenue. And Brandy, can you bring up the zoning map on that, please? It was created in 2004 with the intent of allowing Dixie Avenue to transition from single-family uses into professional office type uses, such as, there we go. And is it possible, Brandy, to slide it down a little bit? The pink on that map, up the other way, I'm sorry. The pink on that map is the RPs that are currently in the area. When we created the RP district, the city did not have a district like this, like a lot of cities do. And if you look at the history of Dixie Avenue, there are people who, probably still a few people alive who can remember when Dixie Avenue was a dirt road. So you had a nice house, you had a big yard, you had a small dirt road in front. Over time, these roads widen, they get larger and larger, your yard gets smaller and smaller, the traffic increases, and in terms of planning, a use that was previously good there is no longer good. I don't know who would want to live on Dixie Avenue in a single-family home. That's not a place to raise a family with traffic like that. So we created this zoning district to help it transition out of the single-family uses that were prevalent a few years ago into some office uses. It has been a very successful zoning district. And what the applicant, Mr. Calderon, is asking for is what Mr. Hicks and Mr. King have on their own lots on the same side of the road. So staff fully supports this and thinks it's a good idea.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Well, I mean, obviously there's a lot of commercial property already started there with people doing it. And from a safety standpoint, I will tell you this, I'd much rather have an office building with adults going in and out of it than a residence with little kids playing on Dixie. So that kind of just where I'm at on it.
Anything about
I mean, I'm fine with it. Dan and I've talked, I think, help me out, Dan, is there even talk of an overlay at some point, changing the zoning on everything there? And I'm not trying to aggravate the crowd, but I mean, I think you implied it's a commercial district.
Staff is in the early stages of considering some overlay districts that would help with situations such as this. In this particular case, the RP is appropriate. But we're in the very, very early stages, so I really don't want to say too much yet until we are able to talk with city manager and so forth.
I'm fine with it.
Commissioner Dennis, anything?
I'm really surprised that this is such a small lot. However, traffic-wise and safety-wise, it could be an issue for a residence. I think that keeping this as a professional building is fine.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Roebuck?
Yes.
Commissioner Hurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Dennison?
Yes.
Mayor Christian?
Yes. Item 5D is consider location engineer for new aquatic facility. D1 is the resolution. Would someone like to introduce it?
I'll introduce and ask for it by title only, please.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Leesburg, Florida, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute a land purchase agreement with the CDC of Leesburg, Florida for property generally located on Pine Street and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Second.
Discussion.
Well,
Yeah.
go ahead, Mike.
You go first. I mean, I've got quite a few comments.
Well, let's hear them. You make them mine.
Well, I mean, don't take this in the wrong way, but last time we talked about the pool, I thought we were going to come back and talk about options number one. Now we're talking about this one particular site. But having said that, this site's growing on me. I guess a few comments, and I think they'll be appreciated. I would like to see it extended. Talk about buying that property there at the corner of Canal and Pine, thus improving the visibility, and maybe we put signage there, things like that. The other reason I like this property more now is the rail. The city owns the trail there, so I'm thinking kids could walk there. I don't like that little carve-out that somebody owns. I wish we could deal with that at this time in some form or fashion. I guess we could do eminent domain condemnation, but I just, that just looks a little, I don't like that at all. I'd like to deal with that if we're going to buy this property. And I drove by there today, the guy's got it fenced off. It just seems like it's going to make this more difficult to develop. The price, even in my field, I don't know what it's worth. Are we having it appraised or anything like that?
If I can address some of your questions. Let's take a step back, and I think there was an anticipation of some different options, and I think probably unofficially on the record through various times the commission has dealt with the pool issue, we've talked about specific sites. Those sites that I think if you would sum it down to what would be your options would be as follows. 1, the Pine Street site. 2, a partnership with the Lake County School Board at the high school. 3, along the 2nd Street corridor where the tennis courts, shuffleboard courts, lakefront TV are. Other locations we talked about is could we purchase the property from LRMC for the corner of Canal and Dixie, the ball field. Another site location would have been, why don't we put it on Ski Beach? So we've talked about a bunch of different sites. At the end of the day, I made an executive decision to bring you this location because I think it's the best location. Every site's not perfect. I had a quick statement in the transmittal where I said that every site has its positives and negatives, but from a staff standpoint, I think this site offers the most to the commission. And I think it does that because 1, I think it's a good site. 2, I think it addresses blight and it allows us to invest in a blighted area and grow the downtown, and it allows us to then attract people up the Canal Street corridor. Those are the reasons I think that this is best. So on that note, let me address a couple other questions you had. Unfortunately, this is, I'm going to ask you to scroll it down in a second, but essentially, the cross hash sections represent the 1, 2, 3, 4 lots that the city is tendered the offer conditioned on your approval to the CDC. We did do an appraisal on that. The appraisal came back. Todd Barfield did the appraisal. His appraisal is the basis for the offer, and he had 3 or 4 different comps, and his bottom line number was $270 a square foot. So I think it's about 2.9 acres times the square footage number is how we walked into that price. And so that's the square footage of this lot, this lot, this lot, and the big lot. The notch, Brandy, if you scroll down, the notch here is owned by a doctor, and Fred and I are still working with them to see if they are interested in purchasing. I'm not optimist. I'm very optimistic that they'll come to an agreement. Our value, our offer was about, I think, about $10,000 for that. That was based on the appraisal. I think they purchased it for 30 or 40 to 10 years ago ish. So whether they take a loss on that, I don't know. Maybe they will for the city. So that's being tendered. Love to have that lot. I don't think it's totally necessary. Having said that, one of the conditions in the agreement is that we get to do a little bit of preliminary engineering work, and if it turns out that we can't locate this in there because of the notch, or because it's a little narrow or what have you, the city then we can back out of the deal. So if you go back up, one of the things that I think is really encouraging about this is how we can address and start pushing good development into the Pine Street corridor area to help promote development in that area, link downtown, the hospital. But it also has the option that we can link in Venetian Gardens and the South Link we've always talked about on the Canal Street area. So we can have a primary entryway on Canal Street. And how we do that is through this right-of-way, this corridor. So even though we have this blue area, the city owns this old right-of-way corridor, and the city owns this lot. we own this lot, which I think is about a 1/4 acre. So the whole site really becomes the hatched area plus this lot plus this lot. So now if you go back up, kind of I don't want to do the engineer's work here, but our initial emphasis is going to be, we want this to be the primary entryway off of Canal. So you've got that regional approach. So Dixie's just right down here. So signs go to the new aquatic facility. You come up Canal Street. There you have the sidewalk, you have the link, you have downtown, and then you can use this corridor and entryway to begin parking and then pool and those type of things back to the east. So so I think the lot is functional, is very functional, and has some options. It is a little tight. I think at 2.9 acres, it's a little tight. But again, that's one of the requirements that we put in there, is that we can do some preliminary engineering work. Oh, by the way, item 5.2 was the contract with the engineers, because if you should purchase this, then I would encourage you to go ahead and approve that design contract. So I think I captured some of those issues.
Yeah, no, thank you. I guess I actually thought we were doing engineering before. Well, I guess you buy it first.
We had brought the engineering contract before the commission, and you guys said, let's figure out where we're going to put it before we execute that agreement.
I would like to buy that corner there, and I know who owns it. It's the Children's Advocacy Center. But the one with the arrow on it right there.
Yeah.
I just think if you're going to spend all this money, we're going to buy this land, we're going to build a pool. The kind of money I'm hearing to build this pool, I just think, I feel fairly strongly it'd be nice to tie it into Canal and control the signage and the visibility. And I was trying to be optimistic we could do some horse trading or something with this. I call it the Lake Sumter Children's Advocacy Center, the CAC. Because I believe the CDC owns some property around them, so I kind of see a win-win there. Help them out and make this a better project, more visible from Canal Street. I do like what we're doing from a beautification standpoint. Is the road, we talk about the land not being big enough. Is the road wide enough? Support this kind of Pine Street to support this kind of development.
I believe it is, because if we have the primary entryway off of Canal through that 100-foot right-of-way.
And see, I guess I was hoping turn that into a walkway for the children. But
I think you probably have enough room to do both.
Okay.
I agree, if we can acquire that corner, that would be awesome.
Yeah, those are the kind of things that made this site grow on me. I didn't like it at first, but it started growing on me over those reasons. To tie up the corner, kids walking there on the trail, tying it into I like what we're doing, connecting it to the hospital and redeveloping it. So I'll stop right there, see what the other commissioners think. I think I said enough.
Well, when I introduced it, when we talked about this, for every reason that everybody said, I think it's a great location, and it's basically within the proximity of where it's been for the last 100 years, just kind of across the street, centrally located, so for a number of reasons. My only issue is, and the mayor can, help me out with this, but for me, every year that we've been on here, or that I've served on the commission, the city has given properties to the CDC, and we give it to them for free, and then they turn around and fix them up, and then they sell them. And to me, I know there's some more properties being looked at right now where we're going to be asked to do that again. And so, I kind of have a little struggle for me paying $350,000 for this property when we give $300,000 worth of property to the CDC every year.
Well, I think the CDC, and just for the record, I am the chairman of the board of the CDC, so I will be abstaining from the vote of this matter. And Commissioner Hurley is exactly right. The CDC actually works with the city in partnership. Many of you know in 1999, there's a federal consent decree that was assigned by the city, the CDC, and, the hospital at the time, and the NAACP, creating the CDC, which I believe, and most people on my board who are here, believe that's kind of separates the CDC as a special organization. I think the city manager and the commission has been very upfront with the CDC and working in partnership as we do other organizations and nonprofits. The Chamber of Commerce, we allow them to sit in a building and pay us no rent, no electricity, so it's a partnership. So I think the CDC looks to be the same type of partner with the city. When it comes to affordable housing, I think we're one of the only organizations, nonprofits in Leesburg other than Habitat, that's for affordable housing. For people in the Leesburg community. I think the partnership with the city and the CDC, I think, has become stronger now than ever. I don't think anybody has even mentioned a consent decree because I think the city manager and the staff and this commission has worked hand in hand with the CDC to further the goals of, I think, the city and the CDC. Of course, this was not an easy deal for the CDC board of directors who looked at Pine Street as historic, black commercial district. So when Al approached, I think 3 or 4 times, I think initially I personally told him no the first three times. And like Commissioner Peterson, this site kind of grew on me from the standpoint of what it would do for the Pine Street commercial area, what it would connect. And we talk about a master plan of downtown. I believe that this is probably the kickoff to the master plan. I believe this gets us past Canal Street for many years. That has been the racial dividing line. So I think doing business sessions with the partnership in St. Petersburg, one of the biggest things that they talked about was the city being intentional. This redevelopment is not going to happen on accident. It's not, oh, wow, a developer came into town. I think the city manager stepped out of the box, as this commission has, and pretty much said, we're going to intentionally make sure our city erases this racial divide that's been in our city for numerous years. Even after 1990, 97, 99 in the lawsuit, I think Canal has always been the cutoff point. So I think for me, this is a big moral decision that's being made by this commission. I think the CDC and the city has developed a great partnership, and I kudos to Al and the commission. Many of the houses that we have obtained from the city weren't in the best of shape. I mean, we spent on an average of $25,000 to $30,000 in hard cash costs. And we provide those to first-time home buyers that I don't think anybody else in the city is actually doing, allowing residents of Leesburg to come purchase a house where the CDC is able then to pay the down payment and even most of the closing costs to get a first-time home buyer, someone in our city, to be a homeowner for the first time. So I think the city should be jumping up and down by a nonprofit in your city that's providing affordable housing opportunities, has a partnership with the city. And I think this particular piece as my board has looked upon as a centerpiece from 1997 that the CDC had to have to help with commercial redevelopment. So when this came as an option for the CDC to work with the city, we didn't look at it as a cash flow. We looked at it from a standpoint, this is going to change the neighborhood. It's going to send a resounding statement to the city of Leesburg that there is no more dividing line, that this city is one city, and race wouldn't be a deciding factor. You know, I've been here since 2004, sitting in the back of the room since 1997, and there's been numerous cases where I've heard the racial overtones. In fact, one commissioner said very clearly, if we take the pool out the white neighborhood, you got to put it back in the white neighborhood. So for me, this is bigger than a price tag. This is a statement I think this commission is making to this entire city that those days are long gone. We're going to do what's best for the entire city. So I think this is a win for everybody.
Amen.
And I agree with you 100%. But you didn't answer my question on any level. So that was a big dissertation, and I appreciate that, and I'm supporting this. My question was, it does accomplish absolutely every bit of that, absolutely. And it is a partnership, but as a partnership, why can't the CDC help us a little bit with this price so that we can take some of that money to put towards this project so that it won't be as tight, so that we can have money to do other things? That's what I'm saying. Every time through the 6 years, this commissioner has voted yes and gave all those properties right along with everybody else, so I'm not out here on some limb by myself. All I'm saying is I do think it's awesome. If you'll go back through your minutes, you'll find out that I was actually the one that made this suggestion that we look at Pine Street. I think it's great for a number of reasons. I just am saying we keep giving the property because of the partnership, and I think a little help from the CDC on the price would be nice. That's what I'm saying. We're going to go from this, and I'll support it. I'll go with it. I'm just bringing it up just as a point. For me, it's a little bit of a struggle because we could sell, we've had, every time we give a house to a CDC just about, we have somebody in here, a private investor, that wants to buy that property to flip it themselves. And the city turns that money away. You know that to be true. And we give it to the CDC. They invest in fixing the house up, and they do all those things that we're very happy and proud to have being done in our city. But it does come out of the coffer's pocket when we do those things. So all I'm saying is, because it is great and because the CDC wants to see development, it would be nice if the CDC would help us with some of the funds and just give us a break on the property.
And let me just say for the record, when I approached Al on the other side of the street is some blighted property. The owner of the private owner wants $444,000 for the property. The CDC paid $1,500 for an appraisal to get to a price we can agree. My conversation with Al is that we want to get this money to buy the property across the street. We're still $100,000 short. So personally, I want Al to even do $400,000 or plus. So for the CDC, we accepted Al. We said, doing the appraisal, whatever the appraisal cost is, that's what we will accept. Even though we want the property across the street to make sure that we are doing what the CDC mission was, is to promote commercial development, especially among African American entrepreneurs. So we're still $100,000 short. So, we didn't haggle Al over the price because we initially said this is good for the city and good for the CDC. So, we still need more because we look at the road, we look at across the street, we look at the fact that Mr. Peterson is correct. The CDC owns the lot, not direct behind the Children African Center, because they own that lot. They don't cut it. So that may be something that the city does a joint venture. We'll build a parking lot on the back end for the swap on the front end. So there are options, but the CDC work is not done. Of course, we talk about breaks, and we do appreciate what the city has done. They've given us 4 houses now. Perkins Street, 6th Street, and I think the one in Carver Heights off of Line Street. So they've given us 3 houses, 4 houses with West Side Drive, and one still up for sale. So giving us 4 houses in the last 2.5 years. So the CDC looks at this as the first time since 1997. We believe the city has stepped forward without anyone coming here jumping up and down. I think the partnership has been great in the last few years because of this commission's willingness to work with city manager and the CDC. But there's more work to be done. We have, on the other side, there's $400,000 worth of apartments that need to be purchased. We on Mike Street remodeling the James Dirt Law Office. So the CDC has a lot of work that needs to be done. So work with the city, I think, just for my board agreeing to sell the property was a big plus because they weren't jumping up and down to do it because this is the centerpiece of the CDC's history since its inception. So hope I've answered that question. We need more money.
How do you feel about the corner and trying to help the CAC with their growth problems? I mean, I see a win-win there.
Oh,
If I bring this to the corner and the CDC works with them and they sell us the parking lot so that we have a corner location with signage, visibility. I just like that connection, but also helping out a great nonprofit organization.
Oh, we work with
without hindering your plans.
I mean, the CACs comes by office all the time. We're right next door to them. My office is right next to the CAC.
But they need more land.
And they own the piece behind them that they bought from Walter Bear's family that not even being cut right now.
The little house?
No, it's a vacant lot right behind on the other
Well,
side.
I don't think that's a reflection of that. Their building is first rate.
No, but you're saying that they need land. They have land right behind where the restaurant. We have a restaurant. The CDC just bought a piece of land beside the restaurant, and we own the.
Well, I don't think they're trying to take over the neighborhood there. All I'm saying is.
Oh, no, I'm not saying take it out, but you're saying they need more land. I'm saying they have some land right now.
They need more than that. I'm just representing they need more land. I happen to see the CDC owns some land around them. All I'm saying to the commission is, could we square this thing off? I think long term it's smart to put it on the corner and help out a nonprofit, and everybody's happy. That's my point. And I don't like that carve out. I think if we're going to spend the kind of money we're talking about for a pool, I've heard numbers $2.5, $3 million. I'd pay $30,000, $40,000 for that doctor's lot there. That just doesn't make sense to me. And lastly, I'll be quiet. The 2.9, does that include what the city owns? Are you throwing that in there, the 2.9 acres? You just jumped up and talked about that one.
No, the 2.9 does not include the city.
Okay, that's good. That means we have more land.
Yeah, the little over 3.
Okay. I don't know where the other commissioners feel about that, but that obviously that's awesome.
And if we could help the advocacy center, because they really do need more room. Those are some really busy, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's unfortunate they do.
People,
But it's well known they need more room, and I just said so. I think I see a win-win here.
Yeah, just for the record, it's 275. It's 127,758 square feet.
So if we pick up the city's lot and we buy the other
You
lot,
might be ticking right at and use the right of way right at 3 acres.
I just can't see spending this kind of money and having that little 50 by 50 foot lot there in the corner.
Hence the contingency.
Mm-hmm.
Anything, Dan?
Yeah, I think it's great, and I will put out just from having a business right across there that I think sometimes does get left unsaid, even though it's not developed. The CDC coming in and purchasing that area. I mean, that was an area that you couldn't really go down at certain times. I mean, it was very unsafe. It was probably the worst area in the city at one point in time. And now, I would have no problem walking down that street really at any time. They've really cleaned it up. I mean, and I think this project's just going to take it to the next level. And hearing that they're going to take the money and buy the stuff across the street, or try to at least, I think that's fantastic. And I would echo Commissioner Peterson's comments that if there's some way we can work something out to figure out whatever the long-term plan for the parking for the Children's Advocacy Center, and then let's get that corner. That would be ideal.
I like the Pine Street idea. I really do. You constantly throw in the school and the school board. You're never going to partner with them. They forget that Leesburg exists in Lake County. So, forget ever getting any money out of the school board. They want you to build that back behind the high school, and then they'll use it. So I think it makes more sense for this pool to go on Pine Street, where it's going to be used by everybody, and it's going to really fix that area up. I do have a problem with some of the finances, but after what you said, I can understand what you're doing.
And the only reason I made an issue with the appraisal is every time we look at a property, it usually references appraisal. Maybe it was in there, I just didn't see it. So.
I didn't include the appraisal.
Okay, I'm sorry, but that's why I made an issue.
That was my issue.
I'm fine with it.
I'm trying to save some money on the 88 conversion.
I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it.
I had it in the car. I thought the break was about this thick first. Any public comment? Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, commissioners, audience. Once I heard about this,
give us your name.
I'm sorry, my name is James Chint. I live in Legacy of Leesburg, and once I heard about this project, I saw that area. I came from Miami, and once I saw that area, I was kind of like trying to find out how could I invest in it and do something with it because I saw blight. And one of the things that I heard from this commission was that you want to eliminate blight. So I took the time to do a little research and wrote an article on this about this would be an area ideal for development because it would give the neighborhood there empowerment. It would be a central piece for that because historically, you know, Pine Street was a thriving area in the black community until a certain time. And Mr. Romack, I'm just saying this to you, right? Because my address used to be at 332 Cleveland Street.
Oh yeah.
So Romack got all of that. That used to be called Black Bottom, and it does not exist anymore. So I was born here in Leesburg, although I lived in Miami, and I came back. So my grandmother's name was Luda Scott. Nose packing house was right there behind our house, railroad track. In fact, Romack the lumberyard had a cross section of the railroad that ran right through it. So that's why I say now when you got it, and I heard about you was buying the other land, I said, okay, so now it's complete now, you got it all. But anyway, I just want to say.
No, we kept 25 feet.
It's a try.
Just saying.
So I just want to say that because of the area, I know about it from being small. You know, we talk about urban development and urban revitalization, but that area had been what I would call suburbanized because you had the influx of highway production, highway construction that completely destroyed that area, took away all of that residential area. So this would be a chance for companies to come back, or businesses to come back to give reinvestment into that area. You know, you can have, and this would be a sense of pride. This would give people a morale boost. It would be conducive to neighborhood enhancement. Once you have something that somebody can be proud of, they're going to take care of it. And that's just one. I want to just throw that out there to let everybody in the community know that I think that this would be an ideal site, especially the historical background of this area.
Thank you, Mr. Gents. Appreciate it. Any other comments from the public? We got Purnell's comments. You come out to ask Mr. Mitchell.
Good evening. My name is Purnell Mitchell. I'm a small business owner here in the city of Leesburg. And with the renovation that you are doing at Venetian Garden, at Ski Beach, we just had the seafood festival, and tying in the property for the pool, I believe that this city commission is going to go down in history as great innovators. The job that you are doing, the improvement that you're doing to the city of Leesburg, erasing racial lines, where we're going to one day look and see Leesburg and not this part of Leesburg and black part of Leesburg. You are doing a great job, and I tip my hat to you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. When I was a little girl, on Sunday mornings, my mother, along with others, would say, I rise to tell you of my journey. I rise tonight to tell you of my community and journey in Leesburg. This is the occasion, and I applaud, as all of us applaud, the commission on voting to restructure the pool on Pine Street. What a wonderful day this is. As previous speakers have said before me, this is the opportunity for diversity to wave its flag. This is the opportunity for all for one and one for one Leesburg to show our connection. My vision, as well as others, is to maintain the historical legends and legacies of those who have come before us. So wherever we have the historical sites, may there also be some kind of memorial which depicts what used to be here. I see in the audience some of the families and descendants of people who used to have businesses on Wall Street of Leesburg. Now, Wall Street was Pine Street, where the business sector for all of the black neighborhood, East Street, was. And I understand that we are in the process or in the talking mode of indicating or posting every business that was on Pine Street, listing them so that our posterity will be able to see where they have come from. Again, thank you to this very fine commission, and thank you so much, Mr. Mayor, for your leadership and for the stance that you take for your district, as well as for the entire city of Leesburg. I stand to speak for one Leesburg.
Thank you, Ms. Coney. Any other? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Martha Taylor. I'm the president of the Tri-City NAACP branch here in Leesburg. I heard someone mention the lawsuit. I just want to applaud all of you for even considering taking this community to the next step. I think it's a great idea. I am just so elated. I didn't grow up here. I'm a native New Yorker, but I was here at least once or twice every year. So I know the history. My family's still here. We've been here since the mid-1800s. So I just want to say thank you on behalf of NAACP and the Leesburg community.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Any other public comment? Okay, back to the commission. Final thoughts and roll call.
Well, I stand by my comments. I'd just like to slow it down and deal with the corner and the other parcel. If we can add that on today, fine, but I feel like we're gonna have to slow it down at least 2 weeks and talk to the CAC and try to buy the other property. I want to do it right. I don't think we've done it right if we don't get the corner and buy the other parcel.
But why would we slow that down to wait on negotiations for the other things?
Well,
I mean, we would want this property either way, whether we have it or not. It's the dream to have it all, but I mean, why would we not want to?
I'm not going to vote against it on that matter. I'm just pleading my case and pleading hard to do it right.
And I think how we address that is through the contingency that's in the contract with the CDC. You know, we've got some design elements that are in there, so we'll know. I think the flavor of the commission is if we can go get those lots, we'll start to do that, and we'll incorporate that in design and hopefully come back with another contract. But I also think that at the end of the day, A, we'll determine that it can work without it, or B, it won't work, and if it doesn't work, then the deal doesn't close.
And there's a 150-day feasibility study period, so that should be adequate time to clean that up.
That's what I'm speaking towards. Make a big deal about it. We're going to approve next a large amount of money for the engineering, which is site specific. So we're going to go spend that money if the site doesn't work. So I'm just trying to get it right the first time, and trying to make the site bigger so it has a better chance of working.
Well, we wouldn't start the site work until we have the deal.
No, but I'm talking, we're going to spend a couple $100,000 on engineering.
Yeah, but we need to spend that anyway to at least do some preliminary work on this.
Okay.
I think you're at the phase where you can move forward safely.
Well, I agree with you. I mean, I totally want both of those properties. I mean, I think it completes it, and I think, you know, obviously we hope that they'll work with us on price, kind of like I suggested already. But if they don't, it is worth having it there to pay the whatever. So, I mean, you know, I agree with you. I want them both, but I don't want to hold this process up because, well, we move slow in government.
And just for the record, the CDC has no problem, probably will work with Al and the CAC to make sure that that happens if
And
it
the
is a
corner is
swap.
probably more important to me than the out parcel. I keep saying it, you know, people drive down Canal, I want to be able to see that.
Yeah.
You know.
No, it's.
And I think knowing the CAC that they will work with the city on that, so I don't think that'll be a major problem working with the CAC because they've been good partners from day one when they actually first bought the property. They came to the CDC and actually Steve Rich, I think at the time, asked for the CDC's blessing to put that building on the corner. So they've been from day one. They've been good partners with the CDC. And I don't see that changing.
Okay, thank you, John.
Roll call.
Commissioner Roebuck,
Yes.
Commissioner Hurley,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Dennison,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
and you're abstaining.
I'm abstaining. Thank you, everyone who came, voiced your support into this commission. You know, hats off to you once again. I think it's changing Leesburg. D2 is a resolution. Would someone like to introduce it, please?
I'll introduce it.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Leesburg, Florida, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute a professional services agreement with CPH Inc. for design services related to the Leesburg Aquatic Facility (pool) for an amount of $285,300 and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Second.
Discussion from the commission. Mike, you said all you got to say.
I think I've said it enough.
Any comments from the public? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Hurley,
Yes.
Commissioner Dennison,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Roebuck,
Yes.
Mayor Christian.
Yes. Item E is consider items for the new community center. E1 is a resolution. Someone like to introduce it?
I'll introduce and ask for read by title only, please.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Leesburg, Florida, adopting a fee schedule for the rental and use of various recreational facilities offered by the City of Leesburg and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
A second.
Second.
Okay.
Just to tee this up a little bit, item E in this item has 3 sub-items to consider use rates for the new community building, be considering catering, which is items 2 and 3. So we'll hit those as we go. So here's where we're at. Construction is actually moving along well, knock on wood. We're looking at a dry-in date of mid to later this month. And so once we went through the circuitous circle of what we were doing with the roof and the steel, which delayed us from our July 4th to our November 1st-ish deadline, we're still on schedule with that. So our plan has been we need to start booking and promoting the center and getting business started up November 1st. We're still a little bit away from that because we've got a couple more construction hurdles we want to get through, but we're at a time now where we need to arm the recreation department with the tools they need to start promoting and using the center. So the first one on this is the use rate. So Travis Reimer, our rec director, put together a little bit of a chart and some explanation. And what we'd like to do is get a use rate chart that's approved by the commission so we can start making bookings for the building. So Travis, if you would.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Travis Reimer, Director of Recreation. Al tasked me, man, it's probably been a year ago to start looking at.
I was going to say 6 months.
to start looking at rates of other facilities and what we would charge at the new facility as it opens. I did a comparison, kind of a comparison study. I probably spent more hours on this than I want you guys to know about. But Taveri Civic Center, Taveri's Pavilion at the Lake, Eustis Community Center, Mount Dora Community Center, Claremont Community Center, the Village's Banquet Rooms, Wildwood Community Center, and our former community building are the buildings and facilities that I had looked into. What I did with them is try to come up with some type of formula and how to compare one to the other, different square footages, different ages, different models, different uses, and then every city has different ways that they charge their rooms, whether it's hourly or in hour blocks. So I tried to come up with something that to try to compare apples to apples. So, Brandon, if you want to go to the first slide, and we'll kind of just go through it quickly here. So this is the room, the rooms. You got the 7,200 square foot in the grand ballroom gives us 1,000 people auditorium style, 450 banquet. If we combine the two meeting rooms, 1A, 1B on the chart here, almost 2,000 square feet gives us 250 and 130. Split them up, you got 1,100, 75 and 827 and 100 auditorium and 55 banquet for the meeting room. So that's those are the numbers we went off of to then look at the rate. Next slide. So what we did, I went back and I took the last 2 years of the usage in the community, our community building, and looked at the averages, and it was pretty consistent. In the main room, we averaged each rental averaged 5.5 hours and 110 people in attendance. And the attendance is what they told us prior to that they expected for their attendance. The East Room, 4.5 hours, 81 attendance. West Room, 3.5 hours and 41 attendance. Kind of interesting. The West Room and the Culture Arts Building came out to be almost exactly the same. So we did some math. Took the resident rate per hour, and that equaled out to about 16 cents per person per hour. So kind of worked off of that. There's a whole lot of numbers, but to keep it brief, the yellow is where we were in our previous community center. All of there's comparisons there with the Eustis. Bottom is the Tavares, which is the most expensive, and with us and the Eustis Service Center were the prior least expensive. The average rental rate is that if you in the large rooms, this is the large room, 150 plus capacity. If you rented it for 5.5 hours, that's what the average rental rate comes out to be. So your average person that comes and uses our facility is going to pay that much. The green is what's proposed. Like I said, yellow is the previous one. So next slide. Same information. This is just rooms from capacity of 75 to 149. Yellow is our previous, green is the proposed. Next. Same thing with from 1 to 74. This would be just the smaller 1A meeting room, which I know we're going to name, in the Culture Arts Building. That would be the facilities that are in that chart. Next. These are additional items. As I was researching it, additional items that people charge for at their facilities. At our previous center, we would charge for extra tables and chairs. So I wrote down the number because it's a lot of numbers. But if you rented our main room, you got 15 tables and 100 chairs. If you wanted more tables, more chairs, you had to pay for them. Personally, I don't like that. I think if you rent the room and it has capacity for 400 people, then you get set up for 400 people. But there are other things that we probably should charge for, especially if we're doing portable stage, which we're looking into. That takes a lot of manpower, a lot of time to set up. A little extra charge for that, and then your audio visual equipment, some charges for that. So here it is in one handy dandy chart. The only one that I want to point out here is the top line. That is an 8-hour time block. Discussing with Al, we had said we want to do an 8-hour time block for the full building. So you come in, have a wedding, and you want the whole thing. You can have bride's room, groom's room, and the main room. We have an 8-hour time block. Everything else is per hour. Also, on discussion for the nonprofit rate, after this was posted, we had one discussion. We want to add in there that it'd be for utility customers or city of Leesburg nonprofits. The nonprofit rate was put in there to not burden our local nonprofits. We have the Kiwanis, Rotary, Chamber, Partnership, CDC, everybody that uses that facility on a regular basis. We didn't want to financially burden them out of our new facility. So that's the breakdown. I think that's it.
Any questions?
Well, I had a couple things on it. And one, you actually, I appreciated the fact that you guys put this in place. But when it comes to the nonprofits, for me, one, it was, I thought if they're going to get the rate discount, it ought to be a Leesburg nonprofit by all means. Because my fear is, we are honestly building right now the top-notch premier place in Lake County. Everybody's going to want to have their events here. So my concerns are, I don't want the Leesburg businesses and nonprofits and residents to get blocked out of our own building because every nonprofit in Lake County or surrounding area wants to use this. I'll tell you this, I mean, I know several people on different clubs, nonprofits in the villages, you know, lodges and things like that. And they are so crowded now they can't even find place for them. So when they see ours, what are they going to do? My only caveat to that concern is, the other thing is that I do know that anybody can go down and register for a nonprofit status and get a 501c3 or whatever. I mean, it's just not hard to get a nonprofit status. So I don't really know that there is a way to, I mean, I know that you could get a 7 or a C1 or a C3, or I don't know how you rate that, but I just want us to look at making sure we are not able to use it because everybody else is. And number two, I got to be honest with you. I think that the rate I think the rates across the board are too low, and I really think they're too low in the nonprofit. I mean, for example, even if it was, let's say my church used it, you're going to charge $50 to the church to have a big banquet there, and for the whole building for $50, right?
No, that's an hour.
Right, $50 an hour.
Yeah, and the only exception, I think we're on the same wavelength to the most extent, because what we're essentially asking is approve the schedule, and this becomes the rate schedule that Travis implements. The modification would be this column where we have the nonprofit rate Friday through Sunday. That becomes nonprofit rate resident utility customer Monday through Friday.
Monday through Thursday.
So be it, Monday through Thursday. And then that allows, the intent there is to make sure our local nonprofits, partnership, chambers, CDC, different churches get to use the facility for a minimum charge on a time when the city's not having big private functions. So that's the Monday through Thursday. And we want to make sure that's Leesburg only or our utility customers.
Okay.
And so that's so our modification, and then I think we address your concern. Other than overall, you think the rates are too low.
Well, I do. I mean, obviously we have a big building and we're going to have a large expense, so we know we're going to have a loss. I mean, there's no way we're ever going to recoup our expenses, you know. I mean, we knew that going in, but I do think that it's going to be a wedding venue like crazy just because of the location and you know, the surrounding area and the lake and all that, and then restaurants right next door, and I can see that happening. And I know I've had to do a couple wedding venues the last couple of years, and man, you go to a lot of these places and it's expensive. I mean, it just really is. So, you know, I mean, I know we're not locked in. We can raise the rates anytime we want, but I'd hate for us to get so booked already 1 year in advance because we are, and I don't have a problem with the Monday through Thursday people that doing that. That's awesome. The other thing that I was wondering what the commission's thoughts were, I do think that if we have events there that are city related, that we shouldn't charge. You know, for example, if they're having a Mardi Gras ball there, that's a city event, even though the partnership organized, I don't think they should have to pay. Or if the Chamber of Commerce is doing their banquet for the city. So, I mean, that was just something I didn't think that if it's a city event, there should be no charge in there.
Say the city sponsors it. They sponsor a lot of events.
And that's the difficult thing too, because we tried to get a policy that was general, that was easy to implement, but there's also another policy that allows the city manager to waive fees. So on those type of things too, you know, those things come before my desk all the time, the partnership or the chamber, or the CDC or a different church, they generally come to me, I've been waiving the fees. So, but those are the things that what you described. So there's some leeway and some wiggle room in there that I think we can make things work.
I do hope that you'll caution yourself on yielding, I mean, on waiving those fees after we get the new building. I'm talking about, the only thing I support waiving. I mean, if my dad comes to you, if he can't afford to pay it, he don't need to have his event there. I'm just telling you.
Understood.
Say, man, you never waive my fee.
I'm saying if if somebody is doing a function for the city, was my point. I think that'd be the only exception I'd agree on. I mean,
Well, I think like what Dan is saying, if it's a chamber or a CDC saying, hey, I want the city to be a sponsor, I think that's what Al can put into the sponsorship. Instead of me giving you a $2,000 check, I'll give you a discount on using the new city building. And so that may be something at Al's level where he said, now put our name on your flyer when you send it out that the city is your major sponsor.
He's saying civic funding's coming around.
So the city sponsor. So
Now the city's obligated about 50.
yeah, about the 8 we already sponsor. Yeah.
But I do think it should be more. I just think people will pay it. And I think we're a little short. I really do from what we're offering.
I think for me, I think it's from day one when the wrecking ball came. My biggest thing is I didn't want to be a Tavares where residents who pay for this building can't use this building.
Yeah.
And I did a wedding in Tavares for my goddaughter. Of course, she's a pharmacist, so she can afford it. I said, why are you getting married on a Thursday? She said, because Saturday goes up about $500. So, I mean, I would hate to be living in a city where we build this beautiful building and then 75% of the residents can't even utilize it because the cost is too high. And I know when we do a banquet, I mean, anything above $25 a ticket, people start scratching their head and saying, oh my God, so you can't, make it work financially for small organizations. And I think that's where I think the nonprofit, especially a Leesburg nonprofit, because I do agree, everybody in Lake County is going to say, I'm a nonprofit, give me a discount. So I do agree with the Leesburg nonprofit. Now, how Travis managed it, I think the staff comes back to us and, hey, we get inundated by these new nonprofits that we never heard of, and they want to get a discount. Or they do like they do in Wildwood, get somebody with a Wildwood resident, let them rent the building for you. So I think that's something we have to make sure that we look out for, because that's what happens. Utility customer, just let Jay Hurley rent it for you. And just give him some money because it gets it cheaper. So I mean, how do you defend that? I don't know, but I just would love to see us where we have our local nonprofits and local residents can utilize the building.
And Mr. Mayor, on that point, I'm also working on a facility handbook for the facility. And so we have in there, my draft has in there a wording about the 501c3, and one of the things we did run into was exactly what you're saying. Is someone coming in for a church and reserving it for the church. So we do have some verbiage in there that it has to be their designated organization leader as the renter, and they have to be doing a function of the nonprofit. So it couldn't be like a birthday party for someone who's in the congregation. It'd have to be a fundraiser or an event that would be specifically towards a nonprofit.
So you're saying they have to be a 501c3 nonprofit?
Right.
Okay. That was,
Yep.
I had a comment today on that.
Yeah, and that's in the policy handbook that we're
Now
can't finish up yet because we don't have the.
Now most churches aren't 501c3. You know that, right?
I did not know that. No.
Yeah, most churches aren't, and most IRS codes would say because you are a church, you don't have to be a 501c3. So most churches won't be a 501.
We could say churches and 501c3. The example I was given today was, if somebody wants to throw a birthday party, they could go form a nonprofit. As a loophole. That was the example given to me.
Wow,
so that's a little tougher.
Well, to be honest with you, if somebody wants to use one of our smaller rooms to have a birthday party, but when you start talking about the whole facility, I mean, nobody has 1,000 people at the birthday. Let's be real.
Jared,
I'd have to pay $995 of them. But you know what I'm saying. So to me, I mean, I get what you're saying. I want people to be able to use it too. I have no problem with that. But I don't want to charge more to go to the splash pad than to use the building.
And we do have other nice buildings.
On the, I would suggest in the policy, I think that it should be the policy that if someone abuses the resident policy or the nonprofit, both the nonprofit and the person should just get a lifetime ban from the facility after you find out. I mean, if it's clear that someone did that, used a nonprofit to go have their birthday party, well then okay, you just both can't use it ever again. At least rent it, and just take a very hard line that way. I think the weekends, I think we should consider a minimum hour, because we don't want someone to come in and say, hey, I want to rent it for Saturday from 7 to 8 p.m. And then that's killed the entire ability to use it. So maybe it's even after a specific time, but like a 3 or 4 hour minimum if you actually want to use it on the weekend.
I had 2 in here, but that can easily be changed.
Yeah, I think it would need to be a little bit higher. I think you're going to just have so much demand.
Yeah, the only other thing I would just stick in there, that $2,500, because we didn't have you wrote it in another section that the Monday or the Friday through Sunday for the 8 hours is $2,500. So we've got to squeeze that in this chart too. We need to amend that.
And
So just so you know, so you rent the room out for a private party on a weekend, you rent the building out, it's going to cost you $2,500.
Yeah.
The chart doesn't show that
Okay.
because we left out that we stuck it in there at $2,500, but we didn't label it right. But if you go back like 3 sheets, it's pretty specific. You go to this sheet where it says current area venue rates. We have Leesburg proposed F through SU. You see where we get that number.
And can I make just one, this is just a thought, I mean, you guys can laugh it off if you want, but what about if we came up with a corporate rate and we actually did some advertising outside our area and gave special rates to get a lot of these corporations? From an economic development standpoint, if you bring companies here, they have their conference here, of course they're spending money, they're going to the restaurants and bars and the hotels and the gas station and the stores and downtown. But if they have any interest in expanding, which would be partly, I would think, why they would want to have a conference in this area, if they're in the area or wanting to relocate here, it might be something that would entice them to come. So, I would even be interested in trying to promote some of that and see if we can get a corporate type thing where people want to come and have their events here and bring their money.
we could probably just take this one, double all the prices, then slash them out and send this because it seems really cheap. So.
Can I on that one?
Well,
I would just ask for a little leniency on how we implement this. And I think corporate stuff is something one day kind of thing that we would go after. One of the things though, as we tackled, and I think it's appropriate to bring up now, and I don't know how the commission feels about it, but when we got the TDC money for the boardwalks, the TDC committee was very concerned about that competition that this facility is going to have with other businesses. Like, let's be specific, with Mission Inn. And our argument there was, we don't think that our existing facility and what we're replacing the facility with is a competitor to that. Somebody who's going to have a wedding at the Leesburg Community Center is probably not going to have a wedding at Mission Inn. So we argued vehemently that we wouldn't be in competition with that. And we got awarded TDC money. And not only did we not get awarded TDC money, the Board of County Commissioners then upgraded that $150,000 number to our full $650,000. So I would advise the commission to pay a little deference to that. And even if we would go out and seek corporate kind of events, I don't think we want to put that into a policy. And I think we just want to let that flow. And I think that pays some deference to what the TDC did, what the county gave us. And I think this is a good entry level to start and see where things go.
Okay.
Then I had one other thing. This doesn't mention deposit. Are we raising our deposit rates?
I think you did put that in there.
I missed it. I couldn't find it, I guess. Where is it?
Right there.
And you also said something there, Travis, about deposit. They don't have a certain time frame. They lose their deposit.
I added that into the memo because that was part of the facility handbook. But that is one thing we do chase payments a lot, and so I'd like to put in there that at certain time frames that they start to forfeit deposit for not having their payments in 30 days ahead of time. Brandy, can you go back to the memo part?
The Jim transmittal.
So, you're going to hardline that because if I'm on the back burner waiting on Al to pay his deposit, so if you tell me the 21st day Al didn't pay a deposit, he loses it, then I can rent it. So are we going to be hardline on that?
Yeah. Well, I would like to. Yeah. Next page. Yeah. So sorry, up a little. Right here. Yeah. So 30 days prior, they need to have the full payment due. 20 days we take $15 of deposit. 10 days we take 30 total, not 30 more. 5 days we take 45, and then we cancel.
Yeah. So I don't think that's near strict enough. I think 30 days if it's fully due. At 25 you forfeit your deposit and your rental.
Okay.
I mean, that just should be, that's how anyone in the private sector is going to do
Right.
that. They're not going to let you keep going and going and going, and then you can't run it
That's
out.
like
Right now we had
that's
nothing, so I
like
kinda
a lot of-
eased
a lot of
into it,
work for
so.
you, Trey. That's a lot of work
Yeah,
for you, man.
Give them 5 days grace past the deadline.
What you get at
Especially what
Yeah.
Jay's saying, it's gonna be in demand. You don't want somebody hanging out there saying, "Well, maybe I'm gonna do it. Maybe I only got $10 on the deal, so I can lose $10, so it ain't no big deal." So then you got somebody who want to rent it but can't rent it because you holding it up, then you forfeit it. And I went to another venue, so I agree. I think you need to pay your deposit. I would just say pay it all right then, but okay.
So we're looking for a motion to support this, and and we'll do two different things. The first is approve as presented. The commission made 3 amendments to change the to have a resident utility customer non-for-profit category. That's Monday through Thursday, what was represented in that column. We are also wanted to be clear that the Friday through Sunday price for the full building was the $2,500, and then we'll also develop the stricter policy. So what we'll do is Travis will develop that policy immediately. We're thinking mid to late July, first part of August. We'll start bookings with this policy, and then when we go through the budget process, we'll put the new policy in the budget, and when we go over the rec department stuff, we'll have the final version of this so you can tweak it as we go through the budget process. But with this, I think if approved as is, that will give Travis a reasonable tool to start doing bookings for November 1.
Just be clear, there would be no longer a Friday to Sunday nonprofit rate.
Okay, right. That nonprofit rate is Monday through Thursday.
Right.
Yes.
So we do have a motion, we have a second. Do we need to make an amendment, all these things, Al, add or as is, and you bring it back to final version with the corrections? What do you think, Freddie? We need to amend that, or
You might as well go ahead and amend it now.
someone like to amend that motion with the things, Al, that we added tonight?
Before we do that,
Yes, ma'am.
your nonprofit, some of the nonprofits here meet on a Friday. So is it possible to make that Monday through Friday?
Or maybe Monday through Friday, like a Friday cutoff of like
Friday
1
AM.
p.m.,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
noon.
Exactly.
Because what we don't
I
want
would-
is not be able to do a wedding on Friday.
Yeah, like
I would-
Friday at 1 o'clock. They would only be taking the small rooms anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We can leave that in there.
1 or 1:30,
Okay.
something like that.
I'm thinking of the Daughters of the American Revolution are on Friday.
Right, yeah, we can leave that in there. So that was point 1B. So if we,
That's okay, that's okay.
so if you,
I'm trying to keep up.
I think for parliamentary purpose, if you make a motion with the amendments as
Right.
said by staff, that'll give Travis what he needs to start, and then it'll come back to you in final form in the budget process.
I move to accept the plan as written with the exceptions that we stated.
Second, okay. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Dennison?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Roebuck?
Yes.
Commissioner Hurley?
Yes, ma'am.
Mayor Christian?
Yes. Can go on the main motion?
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Roebuck?
Yes.
Commissioner Hurley?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Dennison?
Yes.
Mayor Christian?
Yes. Item E2 is a resolution. Would someone like to introduce it, please?
I'll introduce, ask that it not be read and move for approval.
Second. They get tired.
The next two items kind of go hand in hand. We can take them individually or together. Essentially, what staff's proposal for you this evening is, and we discussed it back way back when, while the plan is still in infancy, but staff, I think, read the commission back then as to move forward with catering for the event, with continuing with Miss Debbie's contract. And essentially, before you, on this item is Miss Debbie's contract as it is now, with the word basically exclusive taken off of it. We did put in a new sentence on a term so that we can modify the term. There's kind of two out clauses now. The first one stays the same, which was a for cause type of term. But the contract is a little bit rolling in that it continues until either party gives 120 days notice. That was new, but other than that, it stays the same, but we took the word exclusive off. So our suggestion is to work with Miss Debbie as was, which was kind of the request of several civic groups, and Commissioner Dennison was an advocate of that. And then we're also recommending in the next item that we have a list of outside caterers, whereby the motion is open-ended, but it asks that you give the city manager the authority to work catering through specified companies. So that would be, the choice would be Miss Debbie's service, and then we made a list. I think we're recommending 5 other companies, and I had the list here. 6 other companies that went through an RFP process, and then as you would do events, you would use one of those 7 companies to do your catering. Our suggestion for this is that it's really a management type of thing. That if we have known caterers, the customer can still have an option of who they want, styles of food, and these type of things. And then it helps us manage who's in and out of the facility, so we can just keep a better handle on who's using it, keeping it clean and operational. Our concern is that if you go and just open it all and have a free-for-all, that makes it harder on us to manage the facility and keep it clean. We've had a number of conversations with folks at DeVary's and other facilities and kind of compared and contrasted what the best success is to be able to provide good caterers and a variety of caterers, but also keep the control of your building. So we kind of broke it into piecemeal. The first item here is to continue with Miss Debbie, and then the second item is to use those listed caterers.
So break that down a little bit more for me, because Miss Debbie, continue with Miss Debbie in what role specifically? She would not just be a list of one of the options available?
No, Miss Debbie would continue with her use of the facility. She serves many of the civic groups, Rotary, Kiwanis, Daughters of the American Revolution, and she has some existing business that she did in the center, which she would continue in the new center. And then for major events, there would be a list of caterers that you may want to use.
So what I'm asking is, anybody who goes in there can use anybody they want out of that list,
Yes.
including her?
Yes.
Period.
Yes.
She just allowed to keep some stuff there.
Yes.
Basically.
Use the facility as she uses
But
now.
nobody's required to
use Miss
her
Debbie.
on any. If the Rotary wanted to change, they could.
They could.
She's just part of the group, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, she's part of the
Continue
group.
what she's doing, but the ability for anybody on our approved list is available.
One of the 7.
All right.
So another change here, and that I have an issue with, I brought it before, is this allows Miss Debbie to cater outside events that aren't at the community building using the community building's kitchen if you or your designee approve that.
Yes.
And I have a problem with anyone doing that because we are subsidizing someone at the expense, other businesses are going out and buying property, investing in equipment, and we're now buying the equipment and saying, hey, use our facilities and go cater your events wherever you want to.
Well, I don't know how you can be. I mean, how do you be transparent? I mean, what happens if
We would void the
anybody
agreement.
else wants to go use it? You're going to tell them no. So I think it's either a free for all or nobody on that aspect.
What do you mean? I don't understand.
So what if I decided I wanted to go do a cater somebody and I didn't have a kitchen big enough and they want me to do barbecue, so I just tell the city, let me use your kitchen.
So
I
then
couldn't
if
use
you
it.
rent, yeah,
So that's what I'm saying. I think you have to
I
be.
understand. Okay, sorry.
Nobody can use
The
it.
kitchen needs to be
Right,
used
but
on
this
premises.
says, yeah, but this says she can do outside events using our kitchen.
Because that's her existing agreement.
I thought that was not in the existing agreement. I thought it specifically doesn't allow it.
It is. It's in the existing agreement.
And so you gave permission then?
I copied the existing agreement.
I know, but in the past you gave specific permission to allow it.
I don't know if I did, but it was the policy.
Right. No, it says you can't do it without specific permission per event. And so I think we should just take that out entirely, that you can't cater outside events.
I agree.
I agree with that.
Commissioner Dennison, you okay with that?
I have no problem with that. I really don't.
I'm hurting myself because I'm one of those outside events. So, but I just philosophically have an issue with it. So,
Ms. Deb, you want to comment on that, or you good? You good? Okay. All right. Roll call.
Do the amendment.
Oh, the amendment.
I'd like to make a motion to amend to remove the provision allowing the city manager to allow for catering at outside events.
Okay. We have a second on the amendment.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Roebuck?
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm
Oh.
sorry. Ms. Perry?
Oh.
Yes, ma'am.
Jacqueline Perry, I'm retired HR director with the city. I have a question with regard to if a 501c3 or one of the churches that are, they would have to get a caterer from one of the 7, or would the church cook be allowed to go in the kitchen? That's what I'm asking.
They would have to be one of the 7.
Wow. Okay. Because the facility doesn't have warming ovens. I mean, I've catered at every single one of these buildings that he compared it to, except Tavares. And what they have is warming ovens or something in a separate part that doesn't have anything to do with the commercial kitchen. That if you're having a birthday party, if you're having whatever, you bring your food in, you just use the warming ovens, nothing else. You even have to pay a deposit on that particular part of the building because you don't want them in your commercial kitchen. Let me be honest with you. I cater professionally. You don't want somebody who is not certified in how to take care of food and facilities in there. But many facilities have just simply a warming oven, a sink, you go in. It's almost the way you have down by the splash park, that little kitchen area. But again, it just, you got a nonprofit, and I'm not trying to cut anybody's business because I'm the church cook. That's what I do. And I'll battle with any of them. But anyway, I'm retired now, but the point is, they may not be able to afford that. If his dad wanted to call me in because he heard about me, could there be somebody that came in, use warming ovens, or when my church uses it, that type of thing? That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, at the community center, we have it designed so you would have to use one of those 7 suppliers.
The kitchen's not.
But there's other facilities that if there is a church, I mean, Rogers Park would be a good alternative. So if a church wanted to do an event and they wanted to use the warming kitchen or whatever, Rogers Park is an alternative. So there's other alternatives that I think we can still keep the community center pristine and we can still accommodate other events.
Well, we're one of the people that have a large event that would have to use that room. We have nowhere in the city that's big enough. At this time, the old building was the only place we could go. So it's just a question because there are going to be people who cannot afford or would choose to do their own, not asking to go on the commercial side, but simply some warming ovens and a sink. And if they have to pay a deposit for it, if it's not up to par, then you take the deposit. But it's just a consideration for someone who's done it.
I mean, I never did agree to having a list of caterers. I think if you want to eat good food or bad food, it's up to you. But
No, and I think the catering list is great.
no, but I'm just saying, I never had a problem with somebody wanting to provide their own. But I'm with the commission on this one. Wherever y'all want to go with it, I'm good. I can stick with 3, 7.
All right. Comment on the amendment. Let's go. Mr. Hart.
Brian Hart. My family also, the Deans and the Hodges, we have a catering business. Thanksgiving, we feed the whole community over there, like 300-some people for free. And I know I go to Citadel of Hope. If we were to use the building, we would need the whole facility. And I know we would, no disrespect, we would want the caterers who we use, not, okay, you get this list of caterers. I don't think that's fair to, if I'm spending $2,500, I want to bring in who I want to bring in to cater the food. And the city can just have somebody there that monitors that like they did the last one. I forget his name.
Do we have a process for adding caterers?
Yes, we do. And
Without them
also,
coming to the
hey, the way that, and if this has been going on in the existing facility, that would be in violation to Miss Debbie's contract, because Miss Debbie had the exclusive use to the kitchen. So if there were groups that were in the old kitchen, then Miss Debbie said it was okay. But contractually, she had an exclusive use to that building.
Who's Miss Debbie?
Miss Debbie was slash
Yeah, I
is
don't know
a
her.
caterer who was at the community center.
I really think at this point, if we keep taking every, suggestion and idea, we'll never get this building open. So why don't we do like Tavares does and all the others, have a list of approved caterers, because we've got to worry about the sanitary conditions and everything else, and injury and cleanup and whatnot, and just go ahead with this, and we can make changes down the road, but right now, let's just get going.
She's
That's how long the contracts are currently.
What did we just approve? How long were those contracts, Travis?
We don't have.
Yeah, you gave me the authority to negotiate it.
Talking Ms. Debbie's contract.
And Miss Debbie's contract is 120 days notice.
I think what Dan proposed is
We
that
chose to hold off so we could see what the decision was before we went through the process of negotiating 6 contracts and then.
And if you want shorter terms, tell me now. You know, so when we negotiate those, if you want 1 year, 3-year contracts with the existing
No,
caterers.
it matters how
that's-
long the contracts with them are, as long as there's a process that other people can go through if they want to get added.
There is.
And the thing is, this building was not made for a warming kitchen to be able to do what these folks are asking. I mean, we're not going in, we're not putting the warming kitchen in over and above the commercial kitchen.
And
Building
we
cost enough.
We had a big discussion about this.
Oh boy, did
because we could have gone warming kitchen, caterers, anyone else, but then you wouldn't have had the service that Miss Debbie provides, which is an inexpensive quality meal for civic groups.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm sure she
why
does
we did
other
that.
events as well, but that was the trade-off that we made.
Right.
Well, as far as the other vendors, let's just do the 120-day cancellation with them. And that way, we can cancel, we can add, we can delete.
Speaking of dinner, I haven't had any. I wish y'all.
Okay, so we have an amendment on the floor at this moment.
I don't know why we have. I'm confused.
Hey, Andy, when you
To take out the catering if not used for inside events.
that's for Miss Debbie's contract, because we're on Miss Debbie's contract item.
Right.
We even got the caterers.
Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Roebuck.
Yes.
Commissioner Hurley.
Yes.
Commissioner Dennison.
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson.
Yes.
Mayor Christian.
Yes. Item,
That was on the amendment.
on amendment, okay, main motion, please.
Commissioner Hurley.
This is Ms. Debbie's contract.
Yes.
Commissioner Dennison.
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson.
Yes.
Commissioner Roebuck.
Yes.
Mayor Christian.
Yes. 5E3 is also a resolution. Someone like to introduce? Yes.
I introduce us to not be read and move for approval.
Second.
I can make this very easy for you.
Boy.
Oh, here we go.
This item allows the city manager to negotiate qualified providers. We provided you a list of 6 people. So we'll negotiate that. If we find that there's anybody else who's qualified, we'll add them to the list.
And not come back to us.
That's the motion. We're not coming back to you. We will put together qualified contractors to serve at the building. And the city manager has the authority to do that. So that's the motion we're asking you to approve.
Just a dumb question to mess it up. What's qualified? Do they have to be in the business? Or
They have to be in the business, and you have to trust the good sound judgment of the city manager.
Insurance.
There's no insurance requirements or
There is an insurance requirement.
And a licensing requirement.
licensing.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought I heard earlier. Okay.
Motion to approve. No.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Already done that.
We already had
Do I have one? Okay.
Oh,
I think everybody tired now, okay. Any discussion from the public? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Dennison.
yes.
Commissioner Peterson.
Yes.
Commissioner Roebuck.
Yes.
Commissioner Hurley. Mayor Christian.
Yes. No information reports tonight. City attorney items.
Not wanting to keep Commissioner Hurley from his dinner, I have nothing.
Thank you.
I think we talked about Ms. Debbie and catering made him hungry. City manager items.
Unfortunately, I got to hit a couple with you, but I'll be brief. The week of June 4th, important week for the city of Leesburg. We are holding our DOA trial, which the city of Leesburg with Tico's People's Gas as well as South Sumter Utility Gas Company. So myself and Jack Rogers will be gone the entire week of the 24th up in Tallahassee at the Division of Administrative Hearings. So at the meeting on the 24th, Mike Rankin, our deputy, will sit in for me. Also for Commissioners Peterson, the mayor, and Commissioner Dennison, we need you to show up. because Commissioners Roebuck and Hurley won't be here.
Oh, okay.
So
Take his badge for him,
you
man.
guys,
Take his
you
badge
guys,
for him.
you guys can't get sick.
What am I gonna go to
We'll need
Vietnam that
three.
Hey,
So
man, we're gonna take a vacation. We're
So
gonna leave them.
there's a couple of issues, and Commissioner Roebuck had two issues that he was going to bring up. One is he's going to be announcing a new rec board member as our rec board member, Mr. Hunt, had to resign, and also with Mr. Roebuck and Mr. Hurley out on the 24th, there's an important MPO meeting. And I'll be in Tallahassee, so this one will fall to our Public Works Director.
Can't. It has to be an elected official.
It does.
Yep. I looked at
So you might need a proxy from one of these
It
three.
will. It's on June 26th at 2 p.m. or 3 p.m.
Can somebody make the MPO meeting? Or when were you? You're not back to the 30th. You're the alternate.
I'm gone from the 22nd to the 30th.
Right. Can
Where
you
is
make
the
it, or
meeting?
you make it?
It's in at the Lady Lake Library.
What is it?
The MPO, the Metropolitan Planning
Yeah, we just
Organization.
need our
And it's,
representative.
and it's rather important because they're approving the 5-year plan, and so the widening of 441 here was the fourth priority. 2 county priorities got approved, and the draft plan had us at number 5. And I said, well, how did we not get moved up? 2 problems came up. Oh, well, those are county slots, so county go back in there. I said, well, that means we can never move up. That logic is just absurd. And so, well, that's why we're asking for comments. So we need to make sure that we don't want to go to 1 because there's projects waiting longer, but we need to keep moving up the list. So it's important that someone goes.
What date is that?
It's the 26th.
And I don't have my calendar phone with me.
It's at 1 o'clock, is it?
I think it's not on my calendar. I declined it, but I think it's at 2 p.m.
If you send me your notes, I'll try to go.
Okay. All right, I will. And then Pam actually has the stuff because I told her I couldn't go.
That's all you got, Mr. City Manager?
That's it, but we need a name just so we can have an official proxy.
Mayor Christian.
So Mayor Christian is it, and then Mr. Maudlin will get you up to speed.
All right, DC.
He'll be whispering in your ear how to vote.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, that's it. Thanks, Jay. Appreciate you being
You're
on.
welcome.
Thanks for going on vacation again, Jay.
You're welcome.
Damn.
I'll enjoy it.
Public comment. This section is reserved for members of the public to bring up matters of concern or opportunities for praise. Issues brought up will not be discussed in detail at this meeting. Issues will be either referred to the proper staff or will be scheduled for consideration at a future city commission meeting. Comments are limited to 3 minutes, please.
Here's Mr. Fay's phone number and whatnot.
Okay.
Sidewalk tree and rock.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Fay, I was up in Leesburg, and I've been in the hospital in and out. I haven't had a chance to find out if you guys are doing anything with the sidewalks on Oak Street from there to the school. And it needs more wide area on that one street when you come on. I can't remember that one street is. It's right up behind the Amscot. The Star Cup in there. They need a couple lights up in there. We have handicapped people with wheelchairs, and they walk the dogs and stuff like I do.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it if I
Mr.
can find
Fay,
out.
I also said that there's 2 lots over there that need some severe
Yeah,
cutting.
they got one cleaned out.
Okay, all
They
right,
didn't get
good.
that one done.
But Mr. Minner has your phone number and the 3 items that we discussed last week.
Okay.
All right.
Because I was at the hospital. That's why I didn't show
Right.
up. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment?
Good evening, Mayor and Commission. I'm Clay Bell, and I'm on here on the behalf of Travis, and I don't even want to say your last name because every time I do it, I murder it. Rima. Anyways, I don't know if y'all have heard. We, the city 10U boys baseball team, we won districts this weekend, and that's very important to me and a lot of parents here. I'm talking on behalf of the whole team here. I just want to recognize him and praise him, how far he has gotten this rec department from 20 years ago to now. Because I think we all know that the rec department has been suffered for the last 20 years, in my opinion. But he's brought these kids up, and he's not just a coach to these kids. He's a mentor. There's some of these kids don't even have fathers. He picks them up. He can drop them off. Stay at his house. He works all day. And then guess what? He gets off. He coaches our children for 3 or 4 hours, 3 times a week. Saturday and Sunday he comes around. He's at the ball fields, sun up, sometimes the sun down. So I just want to recognize him. He's just not your director of the recreation department. He's part of this community, and he's bettering the lives of a lot of children. And that's really all I have to say. Because I know Mr. Hurley's on there.
2 things. Did you say they won what now?
The district of the 10U. And I think that's only, maybe I'm wrong, and you might know this. I don't think we've ever won it.
We can't find any record of 10U ever losing the district.
So is there any chance of having them come to a commission meeting?
Yeah. Love to.
We would love to too.
And I hope that we can get this public behind them. And we are going to be going to state. First time ever.
Could we do, would July 8th commission work for y'all?
Wait, July 4th.
I'm not talking about the 4th. I'm talking about the 8th.
Well, hopefully we'll have good news. We won state.
I know, right?
But I just wanted to say that because a lot of people don't get recognized in the city, all the time. We're always usually complaining. But he's done a heck of a job. And like I said, he's just not a coach. He's a mentor. I know to my son. So he takes time out of his schedule to take care of these kids. And I really appreciate it, Travis. I really do. And I think that I'm talking on behalf of a lot of parents.
Thank you, Mr. Bell.
Appreciate you.
Thank
Good job, Travis.
And the second thing, too, I don't know, not for you, whatever. Yeah, I'm talking to them now, but it's about you.
All right, okay.
But, for any of you guys, if you ever find yourself, Clay's been coaching and helping on our athletic teams and our sports stuff for years and years. And, obviously owns a business, does a lot of things with us. Family lives here and goes way back. And he would like to also serve on the rec board. So if any of you have a position that comes up and you're needing somebody that has an actual passion for it and would like to have somebody, then he's wanting to get on that board if any of us have an opening. So I just wanted to throw you out because now I can put your face with the name. Put your hat on, you look better.
I know, it's out of respect. So
Thank you.
I do appreciate it, and I thank y'all very much.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment?
Alan Reisman with BHI Properties, Mayor, Commission, City Manager, and Tracy. We just appreciate the unanimous approval.
Good
Thank
job.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Appreciate you, man. Any other public comment? Now we have roll call, please.
Commissioner Peterson.
Swear, you say anything?
Commissioner Roebuck.
So I was going to do my rec board
Think about
appointment,
it.
but I'm not because I actually haven't spoken to the name that I was given by Ashley, and now knowing there's someone else, let me wait till the next meeting. That'll be okay.
Commissioner
Good job, Dan. Nothing.
Commissioner Dennison.
For Mr. Hurley, nothing.
Love you.
Mayor Christie.
Yes, I just want to recognize from the Florida Department of State, June 3rd, says, Dear Mayor Christian, on behalf of the Florida Department of State, congratulations on the designation of Leesburg Partnership as the June 2019 Florida Main Street Program of the Month. Programs selected based on the development, achievement, and participation in Florida Main Street Program. The Florida Main Street Program is administered by the Division of Historical Resources of the Florida Department of State. It takes a significant amount of hard work, commitment, and passion to run a successful Main Street program, and Florida Main Street is pleased to share the partnership's effort with the community. Since the start of the Leesburg Partnership, there has been $28,395,940 of public and private investment, 406 jobs created, and 138 businesses opened in the district. So real short, Joni, congratulations, and to you and the partnership, and Joe, to all the volunteers that make Leesburg better. So congratulations from us and the good work you do for Leesburg. Yes, sir.
I know you guys want to go,
Sorry, Jay. I'm trying
but
to get out
before
of
you
here, man.
look, no, this is a good thing.
I had a dissertation. I wasn't gonna do it, Jay, but go
I
ahead.
know,
Al.
I begged them. And I meant to say this in my comments, and so, but I'll be brief. In city manager school, they taught you never to be invested in a project and do what the commission tells you to do. But I want to tell you tonight, I think that your all's decision to go with the pool and to do the Pine Street project, I think that's a really cool thing I think y'all did tonight. I'm proud to work for you, and I really look forward to get this pool done and move the community forward. So
How
I
long do
think
you
you guys
think
did a
it'll
good
take,
thing.
honestly? Is that something that we could
Are
have
we sure
done?
we're gonna put a pool there?
Yeah, 18 months. You know, we design it. Let's take 6 months to design it and build it in 12,
So
something
no
like
wait
that.
for next summer.
Probably not.
We can
But
have
but with all honesty, I think tonight's exciting. I think you guys did a really cool thing.
Yeah.
Best efforts to do it right.
Yeah, and I know everybody hate to hear about the homeless situation, but coming down 27 of Main Street, there's a homeless camp, and they're camping out on our electrical boxes, Mr. Greg. They're camping out, and you know, just not a good look to interest. I don't know what Al can do, but just not a good look to turn down Main Street, and you got a homeless camp that's right there camping out in tents and everything. So. You know, so that's why Al get paid the big buck. Find a solution, Al. Make it happen.
We're gonna energize the transformers.
And I turned left by Waterman, and then I got stopped because a clan of homeless people were coming out of the woods. So at least Eustis has got some over there too.
They did probably hop in the truck bed.
And I just want to say, y'all be careful. Keep your doors locked. We've had a few break-ins at the church daycare, so y'all keep your doors locked and be vigilant because, you know, this is the season. People still like breaking your stuff, so y'all just be careful. Motion adjourned.
Adjourn.